1. Blackmail, 1929. Blackmail is a 1929 British thriller directed by Alfred Hitchcock and starring Annie Andra, John Longden, and Cyril Richard. Based on the 1928 play of the same name by Charles Bennett, the film is about a London woman who is blackmailed after killing a man who tries to rape her. Blackmail is frequently cited as the first British sound feature film. It was voted the best British film of 1929 in a UK poll the year it was released. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine ranked Blackmail as the 59th best British film ever. 2. A Cottage on Dartmoor, 1929. A Cottage on Dartmoor is a 1929 British part-talkie sound film, directed by Anthony Asquith and starring Nora Baring, Uno Henning and Hans Adalbert Schletto. The cameraman was Stanley Rodwell. In addition to a sequence with audible dialogue or a talking sequence, the film also featured a synchronized musical score with sound effects and English intertitles. The soundtrack was recorded using the Klangfilm Toby's sound recording process. A cut-down edited silent version was made for theaters that had not yet converted to sound, but this version is no longer extant. It was the last of Asquith's films before fully converting to all talking pictures. The film was produced during the transition period from silence to talkies in British cinema, a point which is referenced in the film itself. 3. Piccadilly, 1929. Piccadilly is a 1929 British silent and sound drama film directed by E.A. Dupont, written by Arnold Bennett and starring Gilda Gray, Anna May Wong, and Jameson Thomas. The film was shot on location in London. 3. Produced by British International Pictures. This film initially was released as a silent in February 1929 but was largely ignored due to the general public's apathy to silent films. Due to the popularity of sound films, the studio re-released the film later the same year in June for cinemas wired for sound. The sound version was prepared by Sono Artworld Wide Pictures. This version included a music score and sound effects by Harry Gordon, along with a 5-minute sound prologue titled Prologue to Piccadilly that was added to the beginning of the film. The prologue featured just 2 actors, Jameson Thomas who plays Valentine Wilmot in the film and John Longden as the man from China. 4. The 39 Steps, 1935. The 39 Steps is a 1935 British spy thriller film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Robert Donat and Madeline Carroll. It is loosely based on the 1915 novel The 39 Steps by John Buchan. It concerns a Canadian civilian in London, Richard Hannay, who becomes caught up in preventing an organization of spies called the 39 Steps from stealing British military secrets. Mistakenly accused of the murder of a counter-espionage agent, Hannay goes on the run to Scotland and becomes tangled up with an attractive woman, Pamela, while hoping to stop the spy ring and clear his name. 5. Sabotage, 1936. Sabotage, released in the United States as The Woman Alone, is a 1936 British espionage thriller film directed by Alfred Hitchcock starring Sylvia Sidney, Oscar Homolka, and John Loder. It is loosely based on Joseph Conrad's 1907 novel The Secret Agent, about a woman who discovers that her husband, the owner of a London movie theater, is a terrorist agent. 6. The Lady Vanishes, 1938. The Lady Vanishes is a 1938 British mystery thriller film directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Margaret Lockwood and Michael Redgrave, written by Sidney Gilliatt and Frank Launder. Based on the 1936 novel The Wheel Spins by Ethel Lena White, the film is about an English tourist traveling by train in continental Europe who discovers that her elderly traveling companion seems to have disappeared from the train. After her fellow passengers deny ever having seen the elderly lady, the young woman is helped by a young musicologist, the two proceeding to search the train for clues to the old lady's disappearance. The British Film Institute ranked The Lady Vanishes the 35th best British film of the 20th century. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine saw it ranked the 31st best British film ever. It is one of Hitchcock's most renowned British films, and the first of 3 screen versions of White's novel as of January 2021. 7. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, 1939. Goodbye, Mr. Chips is a 1939 romantic drama film starring Robert Donat, Greer Garson and directed by Sam Wood. Based on the 1934 novella of the same name by James Hilton. The film is about Mr. Chipping, a beloved aged school teacher and former headmaster of a boarding school, who recalls his career and his personal life over the decades. Produced for the British division of MGM at Denham Studios, the film was dedicated to Irving Thalberg, who died on September 14, 1936. At the 12th Academy Awards, it was nominated for 7 awards including Best Picture, and for his performance as Mr. Chipping Donat won the award for Best Actor. 8. Rebecca, 1940. Rebecca is a 1940 American romantic psychological thriller film directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It was Hitchcock's first American project, and his first film under contract with producer David O. Selznick. The screenplay by Robert E. Sherwood and Joan Harrison and adaptation by Philip MacDonald and Michael Hogan were based on the 1938 novel of the same name by Daphne du Maurier. Rebecca was theatrically released on April 12, 1940 to critical and commercial success. It received 11 nominations at the 13th Academy Awards, more than any other film that year. It won 2 awards, Best Picture and Best Cinematography, becoming the only film directed by Hitchcock to win the former award. In 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. 9. Went the Day Well? 1942, Went the Day Well? Is a 1942 British war film adapted from a story by Graham Greene and directed by Alberto Cavalcanti. It was produced by Michael Balcone of Ealing Studios and served as unofficial propaganda for the war effort. The film shows a southern English village taken over by German paratroopers, reflecting the greatest potential nightmare for the British public of the time, although the threat of German invasion had largely receded by that point. The film is notable for its unusually frank for the time depiction of ruthless violence. 10. Fires Were Started, 1943. Fires Were Started is a 1943 British film written and directed by Humphrey Jennings. Filmed in documentary style, it shows the lives of firefighters through the Blitz during the Second World War. The film uses actual firemen, including Cyril Demarne, rather than professional actors. 11. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, 1943. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is a 1943 British romantic war film written, produced and directed by the British filmmaking team of Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. It stars Roger Livesey, Deborah Kerr and Anton Walbrook. The title derives from the satirical Colonel Blimp comic strip by David Lowe, but the story is original. One film critic has described it as England's greatest film ever, and it is renowned for its sophistication and directorial brilliance, as well as for its script, the performances of its large cast, and for its pioneering Technicolor cinematography. Among its distinguished company of actors, particular praise has been reserved for Livesey, Walbrook and Kerr. A Canterbury Tale is a 1944 British film by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger starring Eric Portman, Sheila Sim, Dennis Price and John Sweet. Esmond Knight provided narration and played 2 small roles. For the post-war American release, Raymond Massey narrated and Kim Hunter was added to the film. The film was made in black and white and was the first of 2 collaborations between Powell and Pressburger and cinematographer Irwin Hillier. A Canterbury Tale takes its title from the 14th century The Canterbury Tales of Geoffrey Chaucer and loosely uses Chaucer's theme of eccentric characters on a religious pilgrimage to highlight the wartime experiences of the citizens of Kent and encourage wartime Anglo-American friendship and understanding. 13. I Know Where I'm Going. 1945, I Know Where I'm Going is a 1945 romance film by the British-based filmmakers Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. It stars Wendy Hiller and Roger Livesey, and features Pamela Brown and Finlay Curry. Joan Webster is a 25-year-old middle-class Englishwoman with an ambitious, independent spirit. She knows where she's going, or at least she thinks she does. She travels from her home in Manchester to the Hebrides to marry Sir Robert Bellinger, a wealthy, much older industrialist, on the fictitious Isle of Killoran. 14. Brief Encounter, 1945. Brief Encounter is a 1945 British romantic drama film directed by David Lean from a screenplay by Noel Coward, based on his 1936 one-act play Still Life. Starring Celia Johnson, Trevor Howard, Stanley Holloway and Joyce Carey, it follows a passionate extramarital relationship in England shortly before World War II. The protagonist is Laura, a married woman with children whose conventional life becomes increasingly complicated after a chance meeting at a railway station with a married stranger with whom she subsequently falls in love. The film premiered in London on November 13, 1945. It went to general release on November 25 to widespread critical acclaim. It received 3 nominations at the 19th Academy Awards: Best Director, Best Actress, for Johnson, and Best Adapted Screenplay. In 1999, the British Film Institute ranked it as the 2nd greatest British film of all time. In 2017, a Time Out poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics ranked it the 12th best British film ever. 15. Dead of Night, 1945. Dead of Night is a 1945 black and white British anthology supernatural horror film made by Ealing Studios. The individual segments were directed by Alberto Cavalcanti, Charles Crichton, Basil Dearden, and Robert Hamer. It stars Mervyn Johns, Googie Withers, Sally Ann Howes, and Michael Redgrave. The film is best remembered for the concluding story featuring Redgrave and an insane ventriloquist's malevolent dummy. Dead of Night is a rare British horror film of the 1940s. Horror films were banned from production in Britain during World War II. It had an influence on subsequent British films in the genre. Both of John Bain's stories were reused for later films, and the ventriloquist dummy episode was adapted into the pilot episode of the long-running CBS radio series Escape. 16. Great Expectations, 1946. Great Expectations is a 1946 British drama film directed by David Lean, based on the 1861 novel by Charles Dickens and starring John Mills and Valerie Hobson. The script is based on a slimmed-down version of Dickens' novel. It was written by David Lean, Anthony Havelock Allen, Cecil McGivern, Ronald Neame, and Kay Walsh, after Lean had seen an abridged 1939 stage version of the novel written by Alec Guinness. In the stage version, Guinness had played Herbert Pocket while Martita Hunt played Miss Havisham, roles that they reprised for the film. It earned $2 million in rentals in North America. John Bryan and Wilfred Shingleton won the Academy Award for Best Art Direction Black and White, while Guy Green won for Best Cinematography Black and White. The film was also nominated for Best Director, as well as Best Screenplay Adaptation, and Best Picture. The film is now regarded as one of Lean's best. In 1999, on the British Film Institute's Top 100 British Films list, Great Expectations was named the 5th greatest British film of all time. 17. A Matter of Life and Death, 1946. A Matter of Life and Death is a 1946 British fantasy romance film set in England during World War II. Written, produced and directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, the film stars David Niven, Roger Livesey, Raymond Massey, Kim Hunter, and Marius Goring. The film was originally released in the United States under the title Stairway to Heaven, which derived from the film's most prominent special effect, a broad escalator linking Earth to the afterlife. In 1999, A Matter of Life and Death placed 20th on the British Film Institute's list of Best 100 British Films. It ranked 90th in the Sight and Sound Greatest Films of All Time 2012 poll, regarded by some as the most authoritative in the world, and 78th in 2022. 18. Black Narcissus, 1947. Black Narcissus is a 1947 British psychological drama film written, produced and directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, and starring Deborah Kerr, Sabu, David Farrar, and Flora Robson, and featuring Esmond Knight, Gene Simmons, and Kathleen Byron. The title refers to the Karen perfume Narcisse Noir. The film is based on the 1939 novel by Rumer Godden. It revolves around the growing tensions within a small convent of Anglican sisters who are trying to establish a school and hospital in the old palace of an Indian Raja at the top of an isolated mountain above a fertile valley in the Himalayas. Black Narcissus achieved considerable acclaim for its technical mastery, with the cinematographer, Jack Cardiff, winning an Academy Award for Best Cinematography and a Golden Globe Award for Best Cinematography, and Alfred Junge winning an Academy Award for Best Art Direction. 19. It Always Rains on Sunday, 1947. It Always Rains on Sunday is a 1947 British film adaptation of Arthur Law Burns' novel of the same name, directed by Robert Hamer. The film has been compared with the poetic realism movement in the French cinema of a few years earlier by the British writers Robert Murphy and Graham Fuller. The film was one of the most popular movies at the British box office in 1948. According to Kinematograph Weekly, the biggest winner at the box office in 1948. The film earned distributors gross receipts of £229,834 in the UK, of which £188,247 went to the producer. 20. The Fallen Idol, 1948. The Fallen Idol, also known as The Lost Illusion, is a 1948 British mystery thriller film directed by Carol Reed and starring Ralph Richardson, Bobby Henry, Michelle Morgan, and Dennis O'Dea. Its plot follows the young son of a diplomat in London, who comes to suspect that his family's butler, whom he idolizes, has committed a murder. It is based on the 1936 short story, The Basement Room, by Graham Greene. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Director, Carol Reed, and Best Adapted Screenplay, Graham Greene, and won the BAFTA Award for Best British Film. As of June 30, 1949, the film earned £203,000 in the UK, of which £150,553 went to the producer. 21. The Red Shoes, 1948. The Red Shoes is a 1948 British drama film written, directed and produced by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger. It follows Victoria Page, Moira Shearer, an aspiring ballerina who joins the world-renowned Ballet Lermontov, owned and operated by Boris Lermontov, Anton Walbrook, who tests her dedication to the ballet by making her choose between her career and her romance with composer Julian Craster, Marius Goring. It marked the feature film debut of Shearer, an established ballerina, and also features Robert Helpmann, Leonid Massine, and Ludmila Cherina, other renowned dancers from the ballet world. The plot is based on the 1845 eponymous fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen, and features a ballet within it by the same title, also adapted from the Andersen work. According to one account, producers' receipts were £179,900 in the UK and £1,111,400 overseas. It made a reported profit of £785,700. 22. Kind Hearts and Coronets, 1949. Kind Hearts and Coronets is a 1949 British crime black comedy film directed by Robert Hamer. It features Dennis Price, Joan Greenwood, Valerie Hobson, and Alec Guinness. Guinness plays 8 characters. The plot is loosely based on the novel Israel Rank, the autobiography of a criminal, 1907, by Roy Horniman. It concerns Louis Gascoigne Matsina, the son of a woman disowned by her aristocratic family for marrying out of her social class. After her death, a vengeful Louis decides to take the family's dukedom by murdering the 8 people ahead of him in the line of succession to the title. It was released on June 13, 1949 in the United Kingdom and was well received by the critics. It has continued to receive favorable reviews over the years, and in 1999, it was number 6 in the British Film Institute's ranking of the top 100 British films. In 2005 it was included in Time's list of the top 100 films since 1923. 23. Whiskey Galore. 1949, Whiskey Galore is a 1949 British comedy film produced by Ealing Studios starring Basil Radford, Bruce Seaton, Joan Greenwood, and Gordon Jackson. It was the directorial debut of Alexander MacKendrick. The screenplay was by Compton Mackenzie, an adaptation of his 1947 novel Whiskey Galore, and Angus MacPhail. The story, based on a true event, the running aground of the SS politician, concerns a shipwreck off a fictional Scottish island, the inhabitants of which have run out of whiskey because of wartime rationing. The islanders find out the ship is carrying 50,000 cases of whiskey, some of which they salvage against the opposition of the local customs and excise men. It was filmed on the island of Barra. The weather was so poor that the production overran its 10-week schedule by 5 weeks, and the film went £20,000 over budget. Michael Balcone, the head of the studio, was unimpressed by the initial cut of the film, and one of Ealing's directors, Charles Crichton, added footage and re-edited the film before its release. Like other Ealing comedies, Whiskey Galore explores the actions of a small insular group facing and overcoming a more powerful opponent. An unspoken sense of community runs through the film, and the story reflects a time when the British Empire was weakening. 24. The Third Man, 1949. The Third Man is a 1949 film noir directed by Carol Reed, written by Graham Greene, and starring Joseph Cotten, Alida Valli, Orson Welles, and Trevor Howard. Set in post-war Vienna, the film centers on American Holly Martins, who arrives in the city to accept a job with his friend Harry Lime, only to learn that Lime has died. Martins decides to stay in Vienna and investigate the suspicious death. Greene wrote the novella as preparation for the screenplay. Karis's title composition, the Third Man theme, topped the international music charts in 1950, bringing international fame to the previously unknown performer. The Third Man is considered one of the greatest films of all time, celebrated for its acting, musical score, and atmospheric cinematography. In 1999, the British Film Institute voted The Third Man the greatest British film of all time. In 2011, a poll for Time Out ranked it the second best British film ever. 1 Academy Award for Best Cinematography, British Academic Film Award for Best Film and Cannes Film Festival under category Palme d'Or. 25. Night and the City, 1950. Night and the City is a 1950 British film noir directed by Jules Dawson and starring Richard Widmark, Gene Tierney, and Googie Withers. It is based on the novel of the same name by Gerald Kirsch. Shot on location in London and at Shepperton Studios, the plot revolves around an ambitious hustler who meets continual failures. The film contains a very tough and prolonged fight scene between Stanislaus Zbyszko, a celebrated professional wrestler in real life, and Mike Mazurki, who before becoming an actor was himself a professional wrestler in real life, and Mike Mazurki, who before becoming an actor was himself a professional wrestler. 26. The Man in the White Suit, 1951. The Man in the White Suit is a 1951 British satirical science fiction comedy film made by Ealing Studios. It stars Alec Guinness, Joan Greenwood and Cecil Parker and was directed by Alexander McKendrick. The film was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Writing for Roger McDougall, John Dighton and Alexander McKendrick. It followed a common Ealing Studios theme of the common man against the establishment. In this instance, the hero falls foul of both trade unions and the wealthy mill owners who attempt to suppress his invention. Mandy Miller, aged only 6, made her first film appearance in this film. 27. The Ladykillers, 1955. The Ladykillers is a British black comedy crime film directed by Alexander McKendrick for Ealing Studios. It stars Alec Guinness, Cecil Parker, Herbert Lom, Peter Sellers, Danny Green, Jack Warner and Katie Johnson as the old lady Mrs. Wilberforce. William Rose wrote the screenplay, for which he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay and won the BAFTA Award for Best British Screenplay. He claimed to have dreamt the entire film and merely had to remember the details when he awoke. 28. The Bridge on the River Kwai, 1957. The Bridge on the River Kwai is a 1957 epic war film directed by David Lean and based on the 1952 novel written by Pierre Boulle. Boulle's novel and the film's screenplay are almost entirely fictional, but use the construction of the Burma Railway, in 1942 to 1943 as their historical setting. The cast includes William Holden, Alec Guinness, Jack Hawkins, and Sesshu Hayakawa. It was initially scripted by screenwriter Carl Foreman, who was later replaced by Michael Wilson. Both writers had to work in secret as they were on the Hollywood blacklist and had fled to the UK in order to continue working. As a result, Boulle, who did not speak English, was credited and received the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Many years later, Foreman and Wilson posthumously received the Academy Award. The Bridge on the River Kwai is now widely recognized as one of the greatest films ever made. It was the highest-grossing film of 1957 and received overwhelmingly positive reviews from critics. The film won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, at the 30th Academy Awards. In 1997, the film was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the United States Library of Congress. It has been included on the American Film Institute's list of best American films ever made. In 1999, the British Film Institute voted The Bridge on the River Kwai the 11th greatest British film of the 20th century. 29. Dracula is a 1958 British Gothic horror film directed by Terence Fisher and written by Jimmy Sangster, based on Bram Stoker's 1897 novel of the same name. The first in the series of Hammer horror films starring Christopher Lee as Count Dracula. The film also features Peter Cushing as Dr. Van Helsing along with Michael Gough, Melissa Stribling, Carol Marsh, and John Van Eysen. In the United States, the film was retitled Horror of Dracula to avoid confusion with the U.S. original by Universal Pictures' 1931's Dracula. The film earned around $3.5 million in theatrical rentals worldwide. It had a record 10-day run in Milwaukee in its premiere engagement. It was one of the 12 most popular films at the British box office in 1958. It earned domestic rentals in North America of $1 million. 30. Look Back in Anger is a 1959 British kitchen sink drama film starring Richard Burton, Claire Bloom and Mary Ure and directed by Tony Richardson. The film is based on John Osborne's play about a love triangle involving an intelligent but disaffected working-class young man, Jimmy Porter, his upper-middle-class, impassive wife, Alison, and her haughty best friend, Helena Charles. Cliff, an amiable Welsh lodger, attempts to keep the peace. The character of Ma Tanner, only referred to in the play, is brought to life in the film by Edith Evans as a dramatic device to emphasize the class difference between Jimmy and Alison. The film and play are classic examples of the British cultural movement known as kitchen sink realism. 31. Saturday Night and Sunday Morning is a 1960 British kitchen sink drama film directed by Carell Rice and produced by Tony Richardson. It is an adaptation of the 1958 novel of the same name by Alan Sillitoe, with Sillitoe himself writing the screenplay. The plot concerns a young teddy boy machinist Arthur who spends his weekends drinking and partying, all the while having an affair with a married woman. The film is one of a series of kitchen sink drama films made in the late 1950s and early 1960s, as part of the British new wave of filmmaking, from directors such as Rice, Jack Clayton, Lindsay Anderson, John Schlesinger, and Tony Richardson, and adapted from the works of writers such as Sillitoe, John Brain, and John Osborne. A common trope in these films is the working-class, angry young man character, in this case the character of Arthur, who rebels against the oppressive social and economic systems established by previous generations. 32. Peeping Tom is a 1960 British psychological horror thriller film directed by Michael Powell, written by Leo Marks and starring Carl Bohm, Anna Massey and Moira Shearer. The film revolves around a serial killer who murders women while using a portable film camera to record their dying expressions of terror, putting his footage together into a snuff film used for his own self-pleasure. Its title derives from the expression, peeping Tom, which describes a voyeur. The film's controversial subject matter and its extremely harsh reception by critics had a severely negative impact on Powell's career as a director in the United Kingdom. However, it attracted a cult following, and in later years, it has been re-evaluated and is now widely considered a masterpiece, and a progenitor of the contemporary slasher film. The British Film Institute named it the 78th greatest British film of all time, and in 2017 a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine saw it ranked the 27th best British film ever. 33. The Innocents is a 1961 British Gothic psychological horror film directed and produced by Jack Clayton, and starring Deborah Kerr, Michael Redgrave, and Meggs Jenkins. Based on the 1898 novella The Turn of the Screw by the American novelist Henry James, the screenplay was adapted by William Archibald and Truman Capote, who used Archibald's own 1950 stage play also titled The Innocents as a primary source text. Its plot follows a governess who watches over two children and comes to fear that their large estate is haunted by ghosts and that the children are being possessed. 34. Lawrence of Arabia is a 1962 epic biographical adventure drama film based on the life of T.E. Lawrence and his 1926 book Seven Pillars of Wisdom, also known as Revolt in the Desert. It was directed by David Lean and produced by Sam Spiegel through his British company Horizon Pictures and distributed by Columbia Pictures. The film stars Peter O'Toole as Lawrence with Alec Guinness playing Prince Faisal. The film also stars Jack Hawkins, Anthony Quinn, Omar Sharif, Anthony Quayle, Claude Rains, and Arthur Kennedy. The screenplay was written by Robert Bolt and Michael Wilson. 35. The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Runner is a short story by Alan Salido, published in 1959 as part of a short story collection of the same title. The work focuses on Smith, a poor Nottingham teenager from a dismal home in a working-class area, who has bleak prospects in life and few interests beyond petty crime. The boy experiences social alienation and turns to long-distance running as a method of both emotional and physical escape from his situation. The story was adapted for a 1962 film of the same title. 36. Dr. No is a 1962 spy film directed by Terence Young. It is the first film in the James Bond series. Starring Sean Connery, Ursula Andress, Joseph Wiseman and Jack Lord, it was adapted by Richard Maybaum, Johanna Harwood, and Berkeley Mather from the 1958 novel of the same name by Ian Fleming. The film was produced by Harry Saltzman and Albert Arf Broccoli, a partnership that continued until 1975. It was followed by From Russia with Love in 1963. In the film, James Bond is sent to Jamaica to investigate the disappearance of a fellow British agent. The trail leads him to the underground base of Dr. Julius No, who is plotting to disrupt an early American space launch from Cape Canaveral with a radio beam weapon. Many aspects of a typical James Bond film were established in Dr. No. The film begins with an introduction to the character through the view of a gun barrel and a highly stylized main title sequence, both of which were created by Maurice Binder. It also introduced the iconic theme music. Production designer Ken Adam established an elaborate visual style that is one of the hallmarks of the film series. 37. This Sporting Life is a 1963 British kitchen sink drama film directed by Lindsay Anderson. Based on the 1960 novel of the same name by David Story, which won the 1960 Macmillan Fiction Award, it recounts the story of a rugby league footballer in Wakefield, a mining city in Yorkshire, whose romantic life is not as successful as his sporting life. Story, a former professional rugby league footballer, also wrote the screenplay. It was Harris's first starring role, and won him the Best Actor award at the 1963 Cannes Film Festival. He was also nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role, and the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role. For her work in the film, Roberts won her second BAFTA Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role, and was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role. The film opened at the Odeon Leicester Square in London's West End on February 7, 1963. 38. The Servant is a 1963 British drama film directed by Joseph Losey. It was written by Harold Pinter, who adapted Robin Mom's 1948 novella. The Servant stars Dirk Bogarde, Sarah Miles, Wendy Craig and James Fox. The first of Pinter's 4 film collaborations with Losey, The Servant is a tightly constructed film about the psychological relationships among the 4 central characters and examines issues relating to social class. 39. Billy Liar is a 1963 British CinemaScope comedy-drama film based on the 1959 novel by Keith Waterhouse. Directed by John Schlesinger, it stars Tom Courtenay, who had understudied Albert Finney in the West End theatre adaptation of the novel, as Billy and Julie Christie as Liz, one of his 3 girlfriends. Mona Washbourne plays Mrs. Fisher and Wilfred Pickles plays Mr. Fisher. Rodney Boo's Finley Curry and Leonard Rossiter also feature. The CinemaScope photography is by Dennis Coop and Richard Rodney Bennett supplied the score. 40. Culloden, known as the Battle of Culloden in the US, is a 1964 docudrama written and directed by Peter Watkins for BBC TV. It depicts the 1746 Battle of Culloden, the final engagement of the Jacobite Rising of 1745, which saw the Jacobite army be decisively defeated by government troops and, in the words of the narrator, tore apart forever the clan system of the Scottish Highlands. Described in its opening credits as an account of one of the most mishandled and brutal battles ever fought in Britain, Culloden was hailed as a breakthrough for its presentation of a historical event in the style of modern TV war reporting, as well as its use of non-professional actors. The film was based on John Preble's study of the battle. 41. Zulu is a 1964 British epic adventure action war film depicting the Battle of Rorke's Drift between a detachment of the British Army and the Zulu in 1879 during the Anglo-Zulu War, in which 150 British soldiers, 30 of whom were sick and wounded at a remote outpost, held off a force of 4,000 Zulu warriors. The film was directed by American screenwriter Cy Enfield and produced by Stanley Baker and Enfield with Joseph E. Levine as executive producer. The screenplay was by Enfield and historical writer John Preble based on Preble's 1958 Lilliput article, Slaughter in the Sun. The film was first shown on the 85th anniversary of the actual battle, January 22, 1964, at the Plaza Theatre in the West End of London. Zulu received widespread critical acclaim, with praise going to the sets, soundtrack, cinematography, action sequences and the performances of the cast, particularly Baker, Booth, Green and Kane. The film brought Kane international fame. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers, and critics for Time Out magazine ranked it the 93rd best British film ever. 42. Repulsion is a 1965 British psychological horror thriller film directed by Roman Polanski and starring Catherine Deneuve. Based on a story written by Polanski and Gerard Brock, the plot follows Carol, a withdrawn, disturbed young woman who, when left alone in the apartment she shares with her sister, is subject to a number of nightmarish experiences. The film focuses on the point of view of Carol and her vivid hallucinations and nightmares as she comes into contact with men and their desires for her. Ian Hendry, John Fraser, Patrick Wymark and Yvonne Furno appear in supporting roles. Shot in London, it is Polanski's first English-language film and second feature-length production, following Knife in the Water, 1962. 43. Blow Up, sometimes styled as Blow Up or Blow Up, is a 1966 mystery thriller film directed by Michelangelo Antonioni and produced by Carlo Ponti. It is Antonioni's first entirely English-language film and stars David Hemmings, Vanessa Redgrave and Sarah Miles. Also featured was 1960s model Verushka. The plot was inspired by Julio Cortázar's 1959 short story Las Babas del Diablo. The story is set within the mod subculture of 1960s swinging London, and follows a fashion photographer, Hemmings, who believes he has unwittingly captured a murder on film. The screenplay was by Antonioni and Tonino Guerra, with English dialogue by British playwright Edward Bond. The cinematographer was Carlo Di Palma. The film's non-diegetic music was scored by jazz pianist Herbie Hancock, and the rock group The Yardbirds performs. 44. If, 1968. If, stylized in lowercase, is a 1968 British satirical drama film produced and directed by Lindsay Anderson and starring Malcolm McDowell as Mick Travis and also starring Richard Warwick, Christine Noonan, David Wood, and Robert Swan. A satire of English public school life, the film follows a group of pupils who stage a savage insurrection at a boys' boarding school. The film was the subject of controversy at the time of its release, receiving an X certificate for its depictions of violence. If won the Palme d'Or at the 1969 Cannes Film Festival. In 1999, the British Film Institute named it the 12th greatest British film of the 20th century. In 2000, for the magazine Total Film, named it the 16th greatest British film of all time. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine ranked it the 9th best British film. 45. Witchfinder General, titled on-screen as Matthew Hopkins' Witchfinder General, is a 1968 British period folk horror film directed by Michael Reeves and starring Vincent Price, Ian Ogilvy, Hilary Dwyer, Robert Russell and Rupert Davies. The screenplay, by Reeves and Tom Baker, was based on Ronald Bassett's 1966 novel Witchfinder General. The film is a heavily fictionalized account of the murderous witch-hunting exploits of Matthew Hopkins, Price, a lawyer who falsely claimed to have been appointed as a Witchfinder General by Parliament during the English Civil War to root out sorcery and witchcraft. Made on a low budget of under £100,000, the film was produced by Tigan British Film Productions. In the United States, where it was distributed by American International Pictures, AIP, Witchfinder General was retitled The Conqueror Worm, titled on-screen as Matthew Hopkins' Conqueror Worm, by AIP to link it with their earlier series of Edgar Allan Poe adaptations directed by Roger Corman and starring Price. Because its narrative bears no relation to any of Poe's stories, American prints bookend the film with his poem, The Conqueror Worm, being read through Price's narration. 46. 2001: A Space Odyssey is a 1968 epic science fiction film produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick. The screenplay was written by Kubrick and science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke, and was inspired by Clarke's 1951 short story, The Sentinel, and other short stories by Clarke. Clarke also published a novelization of the film in part written concurrently with the screenplay. After the film's release, the film stars Keir Dullea, Gary Lockwood, William Sylvester, and Douglas Rain and follows a voyage by astronauts, scientists, and the sentient supercomputer HAL to Jupiter to investigate an alien monolith. The film is noted for its scientifically accurate depiction of spaceflight, pioneering special effects, and ambiguous imagery. Kubrick avoided conventional cinematic and narrative techniques, dialogue is used sparingly, and there are long sequences accompanied only by music. 47. Oliver is a 1968 British period musical drama film based on Lionel Bart's 1960 stage musical of the same name, itself an adaptation of Charles Dickens's 1838 novel Oliver Twist. Directed by Carol Reed from a screenplay by Vernon Harris, the picture includes such musical numbers as Food, Glorious Food, Consider Yourself, As Long as He Needs Me, I'd Do Anything, You've Got to Pick a Pocket or Two, and Where is Love? At the 41st Academy Awards for 1968, Oliver was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and won 6, including Best Picture, Best Director for Reed and an honorary award for choreographer Anna White. At the 26th Golden Globe Awards, the film won 2 Golden Globes: Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, and Best Actor Musical or Comedy for Ron Moody. The British Film Institute ranked Oliver the 77th greatest British film of the 20th century. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers and critics for Time Out magazine ranked it the 69th best British film ever. 48. Kes is a 1969 British film directed by Ken Loach, credited as Kenneth Loach, and produced by Tony Garnett, based on the 1968 novel A Kestrel for a Knave, written by the Hoyland Netherborn author Barry Hines. Kes follows the story of Billy, who comes from a dysfunctional working-class family and is a no-hoper at school but discovers his own private means of fulfillment when he adopts a fledgling kestrel and proceeds to train it in the art of falconry. The film has been much praised, especially for the performance of the teenage David Bradley, who had never acted before, in the lead role, and for Loach's compassionate treatment of his working-class subject. It remains a biting indictment of the British education system of the time, as well as of the limited career options then available to lower-class unskilled workers in regional Britain. It was ranked 7th in the British Film Institute's top 10 British films. This was Loach's second feature film for cinema release. 49. Oh, What a Lovely War is a 1969 British epic comedy historical musical war film directed by Richard Attenborough, in his directorial debut, with an ensemble cast, including Maggie Smith, Dirk Bogarde, John Gielgud, John Mills, Kenneth More, Laurence Olivier, Jack Hawkins, Corin Redgrave, Michael Redgrave, Vanessa Redgrave, Ralph Richardson, Ian Holm, Paul Shelley, Malcolm McPhee, Jean-Pierre Cassel, Nanette Newman, Edward Fox, Susanna York, John Clements, Phyllis Calvert, and Maurice Roves. The film is based on the stage musical Oh, What a Lovely War, originated by Charles Chilton as the radio play The Long Long Trail in December 1961 and transferred to stage by Jerry Raffles in partnership with Joan Littlewood and her theater workshop in 1963. 50. Deep End is a 1970 romantic drama film directed by Jerzy Skolimowski and starring Jane Asher and John Mulder Brown. Set in London, the film focuses on the relationship between two young colleagues at a suburban bathhouse and swimming pool. 51. Performance is a 1970 British crime drama film directed by Donald Cammell and Nicholas Regg, written by Cammell and filmed by Regg. The film stars James Fox as a violent and ambitious London gangster who, after killing an old friend, goes into hiding at the home of a reclusive rock star, Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones. The film was produced in 1968 but not released until 1970 as Warner Bros. Was reluctant to distribute the film, owing to its sexual content and graphic violence. It initially received a mixed critical response, but its reputation has grown since then, and it is now regarded as one of the most influential and innovative films of the 1970s, as well as one of the greatest films in the history of British cinema. In 1999, Performance was voted the 48th greatest British film of the 20th century by the British Film Institute. In 2008, Empire magazine ranked the film 182nd on its list of the 500 greatest movies of all time. 52. The Go-Between is a 1971 British historical drama film directed by Joseph Losey. Its screenplay by Harold Pinter is an adaptation of the 1953 novel The Go-Between by L.P. Hartley. The film stars Julie Christie, Alan Bates, Margaret Leighton, Michael Redgrave and Dominic Gard. It won the Palme d'Or at the 1971 Cannes Film Festival. 53. The Railway Children is a 1970 British family drama film based on the 1906 novel of the same name by E. Nesbitt. The film was directed by Lionel Jeffries and stars Dinah Sheridan, Jenny Agutter, who had earlier featured in the BBC's 1968 dramatization of the novel, Sally Tomsett, Gary Warren and Bernard Cribbins in leading roles. The film was released to cinemas in the United Kingdom on December 21, 1970. The film rights were bought by Jeffries. It was his directorial debut and he wrote the screenplay. The Railway Children was a critical success both at time of release and in later years. 54. Get Carter is a 1971 British gangster film, written and directed by Mike Hodges in his directorial debut and starring Michael Caine, Ian Hendry, John Osborne, Britt Ekland and Brian Moseley. Based on Ted Lewis's 1970 novel Jack's Return Home, the film follows the eponymous Jack Carter, Caine, a London gangster who returns to his hometown in northeast England to learn about his brother's supposedly accidental death. Suspecting foul play and with vengeance on his mind, he investigates and interrogates, regaining a feel for the city and its hardened criminal element. In 1999, Get Carter was ranked 16th on the BFI Top 100 British Films of the 20th Century. 5 years later, a survey of British film critics in Total Film magazine chose it as the greatest British film of all time. A poorly received second remake under the same title was released in 2000 with Sylvester Stallone portraying Jack Carter and Caine in a supporting role. 55. A Clockwork Orange is a 1971 dystopian crime film adapted, produced and directed by Stanley Kubrick based on Anthony Burgess's 1962 novel of the same name. It employs disturbing violent images to comment on psychiatry, juvenile delinquency, youth gangs and other social, political and economic subjects in a dystopian near-future Britain. In the British Film Institute's 2012 Sight and Sound polls of the world's greatest films, A Clockwork Orange was ranked 75th in the director's poll and 235th in the critics' poll. In 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. 56. Walkabout is a 1971 adventure survival film directed by Nicholas Regg and starring Jenny Agutter, Luke Regg, and David Gopalil. Edward Bond wrote the screenplay, which is loosely based on the 1959 novel by James Vance Marshall. It centers on two white schoolchildren who are left to fend for themselves in the Australian outback and who come across a teenage Aboriginal boy who helps them to survive. Regg's second feature film, Walkabout, was released internationally by 20th Century Fox, and was one of the first films in the Australian New Wave cinema movement. Alongside Wake in Fright, it was one of two Australian films entered in competition for the Grand Prix du Festival at the 1971 Cannes Film Festival. It was subsequently released in the United States in July 1971 and in Australia in December 1971. In 2005, the British Film Institute included it in their list of the 50 films you should see by the age of 14. 57. The Offence is a 1973 British crime neo-noir drama film directed by Sidney Lumet, based upon the 1968 stage play This Story of Yours by John Hopkins. It stars Sean Connery as police detective Johnson, who kills suspected child molester Kenneth Baxter, Ian Bannon, while interrogating him. The film explores Johnson's very often aggressive attempts at rationalizing what he did, revealing his true motives for killing the suspect in a series of flashbacks. Trevor Howard and Vivian Merchant appear in major supporting roles. Bannon was nominated for a BAFTA award for his performance. 58. The Wicker Man is a 1973 British folk horror film directed by Robin Hardy and starring Edward Woodward, Britt Ekland, Diane Salento, Ingrid Pitt, and Christopher Lee. The screenplay is by Anthony Schaefer, inspired by David Pinner's 1967 novel Ritual, and Paul Giovanni composed the film score. The plot centers on the visit of a police officer, Sergeant Neil Howie, to the isolated Scottish island of Summerisle in search of a missing girl. Howie, a devout Christian, is appalled to find that the inhabitants of the island have abandoned Christianity and now practice a form of Celtic paganism. In 1989, Schaefer wrote a script treatment for The Loathsome Lambton Worm, a direct sequel with fantasy elements. Hardy had no interest in the project, and it went unproduced. In 2006, a poorly received American remake starring Nicolas Cage was released, from which Hardy and others involved with the original have dissociated themselves. In 2011, a spiritual sequel written and directed by Hardy, The Wicker Tree, was released. It featured Lee in a cameo appearance. In 2013, the original U.S. theatrical version of The Wicker Man was digitally restored and released. 59. Edvard Munch is a 1974 biographical film about the Norwegian expressionist painter Edvard Munch, written and directed by English filmmaker Peter Watkins. It was originally created as a three-part miniseries co-produced by the Norwegian and Swedish state television networks NRK and SVT, but subsequently gained an American theatrical release in a 3-hour version in 1976. The film covers about 30 years of Munch's life, focusing on the influences that shaped his art, particularly the prevalence of disease and death in his family and his youthful affair with a married woman. The film was screened at the 1976 Cannes Film Festival, but wasn't entered into the main competition. 60. Bill Douglas's award-winning films My Childhood, My Ein Folk and My Way Home are three of the most compelling and critically acclaimed films about childhood ever made. The narrative is largely autobiographical, following Jamie as he grows up in a poverty-stricken mining village in post-war Scotland. In these brutal surroundings and subject to hardship and rejection, Jamie learns to fend for himself. In My Childhood, 1972, 8-year-old Jamie lives with his granny and elder brother in a Scottish mining village in 1945. With his mother in a mental home and his father absent, he is subject to the hardships of poverty. In My Ein Folk, 1973, Jamie is sent to live with his paternal grandmother and uncle, a life full of silence and rejection. My Way Home, 1978, sees Jamie's ultimate victory over his circumstances after a spell in foster care and a homeless shelter. He is conscripted into the RAF, where he embarks on a redemptive friendship with pal Robert, which allows him to emerge from his ineffectual adolescence to pursue his artistic ambition. 61. Don't Look Now is a 1973 English-language thriller film directed by Nicholas Regg, adapted from the 1971 short story by Daphne du Maurier. Julie Christie and Donald Sutherland portray Laura and John Baxter, a married couple who travel to Venice following the recent accidental death of their daughter after John accepts a commission to restore a church. They encounter two sisters, one of whom claims to be clairvoyant and informs them that their daughter is trying to contact them and warn them of danger. John at first dismisses their claims but starts to experience mysterious sightings himself. Don't Look Now is an exploration of the psychology of grief and the effect the death of a child can have on a relationship. The film is renowned for its innovative editing style, recurring motifs and themes, and for a controversial sex scene that was explicit by the standards of contemporary mainstream cinema. 62. The Blockhouse is a 1973 drama film directed by Clive Rees and starring Peter Sellers and Charles Aznavour. It is based on a 1955 novel by Jean-Paul Klebbert. It was filmed entirely in Guernsey in the Channel Islands and was entered into the 23rd Berlin International Film Festival. 63. Theatre of Blood, U.S. title Theatre of Blood, is a 1973 British horror comedy film directed by Douglas Hickox and starring Vincent Price and Diana Rigg. 64. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is a 1975 British comedy film satirizing the Arthurian legend, written and performed by the Monty Python comedy group, Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones, and Michael Palin, and directed by Gilliam and Jones in their feature directorial debuts. It was conceived during the hiatus between the third and fourth series of their BBC television series Monty Python's Flying Circus. While the group's first film, and now for something completely different, was a compilation of sketches from the first 2 television series. Holy Grail is an original story that parodies the legend of King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail. 30 years later, Idol used the film as the basis for the 2005 Tony Award-winning musical Spamalot. 65. Barry Lyndon is a 1975 historical drama film written, directed, and produced by Stanley Kubrick based on the 1844 novel The Luck of Barry Lyndon by William Makepeace Thackeray. Narrated by Michael Hordern and starring Ryan O'Neal, Marissa Berenson, Patrick McGee, Leonard Rossiter and Hardy Kruger, the film recounts the early exploits and later unraveling of an 18th-century Anglo-Irish rogue and gold-digger who marries a rich widow to climb the social ladder and assume her late husband's aristocratic position. Kubrick began production on Barry Lyndon after his 1971 film A Clockwork Orange. He had originally intended to direct a biopic on Napoleon but lost his financing because of the commercial failure of the similar 1970 Dino De Laurentiis-produced Waterloo. Kubrick eventually directed Barry Lyndon, set partially during the 7 Years' War, utilizing his research from the Napoleon Project. Filming began in December 1973 and lasted roughly 8 months, taking place in England, Ireland, and Germany. 66. The Man Who Fell to Earth is a 1976 British science fantasy drama film directed by Nicholas Regg and adapted by Paul Meyersburg. Based on Walter Tevis's 1963 novel of the same name, the film follows an extraterrestrial, Thomas Jerome Newton, who crash lands on Earth seeking a way to ship water to his planet, which is suffering from a severe drought, but finds himself at the mercy of human vices and corruption. It stars David Bowie, Candy Clark, Buck Henry, and Rip Torn. It was produced by Michael Dealey and Barry Spikings. The same novel was later adapted as a television film in 1987. A 2022 television series with the same name serves as a continuation of the film 45 years later, including featuring Newton as a character and showing archival footage from the film. The Man Who Fell to Earth retains a cult following for its use of surreal imagery and Bowie's first starring film role as the alien Thomas Jerome Newton. It is considered an important work of science fiction cinema and one of the best films of Regg's career. 67. Monty Python's Life of Brian, also known as Life of Brian, is a 1979 British comedy film starring and written by the comedy group Monty Python, Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Terry Gilliam, Eric Idle, Terry Jones and Michael Palin. It was directed by Jones. The film tells the story of Brian Cohen, played by Chapman, a young Jewish Roman man who is born on the same day as and next door to Jesus, and is subsequently mistaken for the Messiah. The film was a box office success, the 4th highest grossing film in the United Kingdom in 1979 and highest grossing of any British film in the United States that year. It has remained popular and has been named as the greatest comedy film of all time by several magazines and television networks, and it later received a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes with the consensus reading, one of the more cutting-edge films of the 1970s. This religious farce from the classic comedy troupe is as poignant as it is funny and satirical. In a 2006 Channel 4 poll, Life of Brian was ranked first on their list of the 50 greatest comedy films. 68. The Europeans is a 1979 British Merchant Ivory film directed by James Ivory, produced by Ismail Merchant, and with a screenplay by Ruth Prower Jabvala, based on Henry James's novel The Europeans, 1878. It stars Lee Remick, Robin Ellis, Tim Woodward and Lisa Eichhorn. It was the first of Merchant Ivory's triptych of Henry James adaptations. It was followed by The Bostonians in 1984 and The Golden Bowl in 2001. 69. Scum is a 1979 British drama film directed by Alan Clark and starring Ray Winstone, Mick Ford, Julian Firth and John Blundell. The film portrays the brutality of life inside a British borstal. The script was originally filmed as a television play for the BBC's Play for Today series in 1977. However, due to the violence depicted, it was withdrawn from broadcast. 2 years later, director Alan Clark and scriptwriter Roy Minton remade it as a film first shown on Channel 4 in 1983. By this time the borstal system had been reformed. The original TV version was eventually allowed to be aired 8 years later in 1991. The film tells the story of a young offender named Carlin as he arrives at the institution and his rise through violence and self-protection to the top of the inmates' pecking order, purely as a tool to survive. 70. Radio On is a 1979 film directed by Christopher Petit. It is a rare example of a British road movie, shot in black and white by Wim Wenders' assistant cameraman Martin Schaefer and featuring music from a number of new wave bands of the time, as well as established artists such as Kraftwerk, Devo and David Bowie. It is a journey through late 1970s Britain by way of a road trip from London to Bristol, with Robert, a DJ, played by David Beams, attempting to investigate the suicide of his brother. The radio station where Robert is a disc jockey was based on the United Biscuits network, which broadcast to factories owned by United Biscuits. 71. The Long Good Friday is a 1980 British gangster film directed by John Mackenzie from a screenplay by Barry Keefe starring Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren. Set in London, the storyline weaves together events and concerns of the late 1970s, including mid-level political and police corruption, and IRA fundraising. The supporting cast features Eddie Constantine, Dave King, Brian Marshall, Derek Thompson, Paul Freeman and Pierce Brosnan in his film debut. The film was completed in 1979, but because of delays, it did not have a general release until early 1981. It received positive reviews from critics, and Bob Hoskins was nominated for the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role and won an Evening Standard Film Award for his performance as gangster Harold Shand. It was voted at number 21 in the British Film Institute's Top 100 British Films list, and provided Hoskins with his breakthrough film role. In 2016, British film magazine Empire ranked The Long Good Friday number 19 in its list of the 100 best British films. 72. Bad Timing is a 1980 British psychological drama film directed by Nicholas Regg and starring Art Garfunkel, Teresa Russell, Harvey Keitel and Denholm Elliott. The plot focuses on an American woman and a psychology professor living in Vienna, and, largely told through non-linear flashbacks, examines the details of their turbulent relationship as uncovered by a detective investigating her apparent suicide attempt. The film was controversial upon its release, being branded a sick film made by sick people for sick people by its own distributor, the Rank Organization, and was given an X rating in the United States. It went unreleased on home video in the United States until 2005 when the Criterion Collection released their DVD edition. 73. Gregory's Girl is a 1980 Scottish coming-of-age romantic comedy film written and directed by Bill Forsyth and starring John Gordon Sinclair, Dee Hepburn and Claire Grogan. The film is set in and around a state secondary school in the Abronhill district of Cumbernauld. Gregory's Girl was ranked number 30 in the British Film Institute's list of the top 100 British films of the 20th century and number 29 on Entertainment Weekly's 2015 list of the 50 best high school movies. 74. Local Hero is a 1983 Scottish comedy-drama film written and directed by Bill Forsyth and starring Peter Riegert, Peter Capaldi, Dennis Lawson, Fulton McKay and Burt Lancaster. Produced by David Putnam, the film is about an American oil company representative who is sent to the fictional village of Furness on the west coast of Scotland to purchase the town and surrounding property for his company. For his work on the film, Forsyth won the 1984 BAFTA Award for Best Direction. A stage musical adaptation received its world premiere in 2019. In the same year, a Criterion Collection DVD/Blu-ray was released in September. 75. The Killing Fields is a 1984 British biographical drama film about the Khmer Rouge regime in Cambodia, which is based on the experiences of two journalists, Cambodian Dith Pran and American Sidney Shanberg. It was directed by Roland Joffe and produced by David Putnam for his company Goldcrest Films. Sam Waterston stars as Shanberg, Haing S. Inger as Pran, and John Malkovich as Al Rockoff. The film was a success at the box office and an instant hit with critics. At the 57th Academy Awards it received 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. It won 3, most notably Best Supporting Actor for Haing S. Inger, who had no previous acting experience, as well as Best Cinematography and Best Editing. At the 38th British Academy Film Awards, it won 8 BAFTAs, including Best Film and Best Actor in a Leading Role for Inger. In 1999 the British Film Institute voted The Killing Fields the 100th greatest British film of the 20th century. In 2016 British film magazine Empire ranked it number 86 in their list of the 100 best British films. 76. Brazil is a 1985 sci-fi dystopian dark comedy film directed by Terry Gilliam and written by Gilliam, Charles McEwan, and Tom Stoppard. The film stars Jonathan Pryce and features Robert De Niro, Kim Graced, Michael Palin, Katherine Helmont, Bob Hoskins, and Ian Holm. The The film centers on Sam Lowry, a low-ranking bureaucrat trying to find a woman who appears in his dreams while he is working in a mind-numbing job and living in a small apartment, set in a dystopian world in which there is an over-reliance on poorly maintained, and rather whimsical, machines. Brazil's satire of technocracy, bureaucracy, hypersurveillance, corporate statism, and state capitalism is reminiscent of George Orwell's 1949 novel 1984, and it has been called Kafkaesque as well as absurdist. Though a success in Europe, the film was unsuccessful in its initial North American release. It has since become a cult film. In 1999, the British Film Institute voted Brazil the 54th greatest British film of all time. In 2017, a poll of 150 actors, directors, writers, producers, and critics for Time Out magazine saw it ranked the 24th best British film ever. 77. Caravaggio is a 1986 British historical drama film directed by Derek Jarman. The film is a fictionalized retelling of the life of Baroque painter Michelangelo Merisi de Caravaggio. It is Tilda Swinton's film debut. 78. With Nail and I is a 1987 British black comedy film written and directed by Bruce Robinson. Loosely based on Robinson's life in London in the late 1960s, the plot follows two unemployed actors, With Nail and I, portrayed by Richard E. Grant and Paul McGann, respectively, who share a flat in Camden Town in 1969. Needing a holiday, they obtain the key to a country cottage in the Lake District belonging to Withnail's eccentric Uncle Monty and drive there. The weekend holiday proves less recuperative than they expected. Withnail and I was Grant's first film and established his profile. The film featured performances by Richard Griffiths as Withnail's Uncle Monty and Ralph Brown as Danny the drug dealer. The film has tragic and comic elements and is notable for its period music and many quotable lines. It has been described as one of Britain's biggest cult films. The character I is named Marwood in the published screenplay but goes unnamed in the film credits. 79. Hope and Glory is a 1987 comedy-drama war film written, produced, and directed by John Boorman based on his own experiences growing up in London during the Second World War. It was distributed by Columbia Pictures. The title is derived from the traditional British patriotic song, Land of Hope and Glory. The film tells the story of the Rohan family and their experiences, as seen through the eyes of the son, Billy, Sebastian Rice Edwards. A critical and commercial success, the film won the Golden Globe Award for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy and received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay, all for Boorman. It also received 13 BAFTA Award nominations, winning for Best Actress in a Supporting Role, Susan Wooldridge. 80. Distant Voices Still Lives is a 1988 British period drama film written and directed by Terence Davies. It evokes working-class family life in Liverpool during the 1940s and early 1950s, paying particular attention to the role of popular music, Hollywood cinema, light entertainment and the public house within this tight-knit community. The film won the Grand Prix of the Belgian Film Critics Association. In 2007, the British Film Institute reprinted and distributed the film across some of Britain's most high-profile independent cinemas, prompting the Guardian newspaper to describe Distant Voices, Still Lives as Britain's forgotten cinematic masterpiece. In a 2011 poll carried out by Time Out of the 100 greatest British films of all time, Distant Voices, Still Lives was ranked third. 81. Henry V is a 1989 British historical drama film written and directed by Kenneth Branagh in his feature directorial debut, based on William Shakespeare's history play of the same name. It stars Branagh in the title role of King Henry V of England with Paul Scofield, Derek Jacobi, Ian Holm, Brian Blessed, Emma Thompson, Alec McCowan, Judi Dench, Robbie Coltrane, and Christian Bale in supporting roles. Henry V received widespread critical acclaim and is considered one of the best Shakespeare screen adaptations ever produced. Among its numerous accolades, the film received 3 nominations at the 62nd Academy Awards, 2 of which went to Branagh, Best Director and Best Actor. Henry V won with its other nomination, Best Costume Design for Phyllis Dalton. 82. The Long Day Closes is a 1992 British drama film written and directed by Terence Davies and starring Marjorie Yates, Lee McCormick, Anthony Watson, Nicholas Lamont and Iz Owens. It was entered into the 1992 Cannes Film Festival. 83. Naked is a 1993 British black comedy drama film written and directed by Mike Leigh and starring David Thewlis as Johnny, a loquacious intellectual and conspiracy theorist. The film won several awards, including Best Director and Best Actor at Cannes. Naked marked a new career high for Leigh as a director and made the then unknown Thewlis an internationally recognized star. 84. Orlando is a 1992 British period drama fantasy film loosely based on Virginia Woolf's 1928 novel Orlando, a biography, starring Tilda Swinton as Orlando, Billy Zane as Marmaduke Bonthrop Shelmerdine and Quentin Crisp as Queen Elizabeth I. It was written and directed by Sally Potter, who also co-wrote the score with David Motion. Potter chose to film much of the Constantinople portion of the book in the isolated city of Khiva in Uzbekistan and made use of the forest of carved columns in the city's 18th-century Juma Mosque. Critics praised the film and particularly applauded its visual treatment of the settings of Woolf's novel. The film premiered in competition at the 49th Venice International Film Festival and was re-released in select U.S. cinemas in August 2010. 85. Blue is a 1993 British drama film directed by Derek Jarman. It is his final feature film, released 4 months before his death from AIDS-related complications. Such complications had already rendered him partially blind at the time of the film's release, only being able to see in shades of blue. The film was his last testament as a filmmaker, and consists of a single shot of saturated blue color, specifically International Klein blue. This fills the screen, as background to a soundtrack where Jarman's and some of his longtime collaborators' narration describes his life and vision. 86. London is a 1994 British essay film written and directed by Patrick Keeler, narrated by Paul Schofield. The film received positive reviews upon release. Writing for The Independent, Sheila Johnston compared Keeler's work to that of Peter Greenaway, Humphrey Jennings, and Chris Marker. Time Out included it in their 100 Best British Films of All Time. 87. For Weddings and a Funeral is a 1994 British romantic comedy film directed by Mike Newell. It is the first of several films by screenwriter Richard Curtis to star Hugh Grant, and follows the adventures of Charles, Grant, and his circle of friends through a number of social occasions as they each encounter romance. Andie MacDowell co-stars as Charles's love interest Carrie, with Kristen Scott Thomas, James Fleet, Simon Callow, John Hannah, Charlotte Coleman, David Bower, Corin Redgrave, and Rowan Atkinson in supporting roles. The film was made in 6 weeks, cost under £3 million and became an unexpected success and the highest-grossing British film in history at the time, with worldwide box office total of $245.7 million and receiving Academy Award nominations for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. Additionally, Grant won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, and the BAFTA Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role, and the film won the BAFTA Awards Best Film, Best Direction, and Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Scott Thomas. The film's success propelled Hugh Grant to international stardom, particularly in the United States. 88. Land and Freedom, or Tierra y Libertad, is a 1995 film directed by Ken Loach and written by Jim Allen. The film narrates the story of David Carr, an unemployed worker and member of the Communist Party of Great Britain who decides to fight in the Spanish Civil War for the Republicans, a coalition of socialists, communists, and anarchists against a nationalist coup d'état. The film won the FIPRESI International Critics Prize and the prize of the Ecumenical Jury at the 1995 Cannes Film Festival. The film was also nominated for the Palme d'Or at Cannes. 89. Trainspotting is a 1996 British black comedy drama film directed by Danny Boyle and starring Ewan McGregor, Ewan Bremner, Johnny Lee Miller, Kevin McKidd, Robert Carlyle, and Kelly MacDonald in her film debut. Based on the 1993 novel of the same title by Irvine Welsh, the film was released in the United Kingdom on February 23, 1996. The film follows a group of heroin addicts in an economically depressed area of Edinburgh and their passage through life beyond drug addiction. Other themes in the film include an exploration of the urban poverty and squalor in Edinburgh. Trainspotting was released to critical acclaim, and is regarded by many critics as one of the best films of the 1990s. The film was ranked 10th by the British Film Institute, BFI, in its list of top 100 British films of the 20th century. In 2004, the film was voted the best Scottish film of all time in a general public poll. 90. Secrets and Lies is a 1996 drama film written and directed by Mike Leigh. Led by an ensemble cast consisting of many Lee regulars, it stars Marianne Jean-Baptiste as Hortense, a well-educated black middle-class London optometrist, who was adopted as a baby and has chosen to trace her family history and discovers that her birth mother, Cynthia, played by Brenda Blethyn, is a working-class white woman with a dysfunctional family. Claire Rushbrook co-stars as Cynthia's other daughter Roxanne, while Timothy Spall and Phyllis Logan portray Cynthia's brother and sister-in-law, who have secrets of their own affecting their everyday family life. Critically acclaimed, the film won the 1996 Cannes Film Festival's Palme d'Or, as well as the Best Actress award for Blethyn. She also won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Drama for her portrayal. At the 50th British Academy Film Awards, BAFTA, the film received 7 nominations, winning both Best British Film and Best Original Screenplay. It also received 5 Oscar nominations at the 69th Academy Awards ceremony. 91. Gallivant is the first feature-length movie by Andrew Cotain. Released in 1996, it was a highly idiosyncratic documentary. It recorded a journey the director took clockwise around the coast of Britain, accompanied by his 85-year-old grandmother, Gladys, and his 7-year-old daughter Eden. Eden was born at Guy's Hospital, London in 1988 with a rare genetic disorder, Joubert syndrome, causing cerebral vermis hypoplasia and several other neurological complications. The growing closeness between these two and the sense of impending mortality give the film its emotional underpinning. 92. Nil by Mouth is a 1997 drama film portraying a family in southeast London. It was Gary Oldman's debut as a writer and director, and was produced by Oldman, Douglas Urbanski and Luc Besson. It stars Ray Winstone as Raymond, the abusive husband of Valerie, played by Kathy Burke. The score was composed by Eric Clapton. 93. Robinson in Space again finds Patrick Keller pushing the limits of British cinema to fascinating degrees with a rewarding and unparalleled payoff. Robinson and his unseen companion, a narrator voiced by Paul Scofield, have been commissioned to investigate the problem of England. The journey takes them all over the country, from Manchester to Liverpool and Bristol to Birmingham, as they deconstruct English anachronism, culture, dilapidation, and the industrial economy. Keeler's immaculately framed images and sly deadpan narration take the viewer on an unpredictable exploration of the cultural and economic landscape of England. Robinson in Space is a sequel to Keller's own psychogeographic cinematic journey, London, which explored the impact of John Major, the IRA, and many other important facets of the city during the early 1990s. Directed by Patrick Keeler. 94. Under the Skin is a 1997 British drama film written and directed by Corinne Adler and starring Samantha Morton and Claire Rushbrook. It tells the story of 2 sisters coping with the sudden death of their mother. While one sister, Rose, manages to get on with her life, younger sister Iris goes down a self-destructive path in which she loses herself in one-night stands and anonymous sexual encounters. Adler based her ideas for the script on forensic psychiatrist Estella V. Weldon's book Mother, Madonna, Whore, which argues that whereas men tend to externalize their grieving processes through anger, women internalize them via paths which can incorporate such extreme reactions as self-harm and promiscuity. Morton was widely praised for her performance, and the film won top critics' prizes at various film festivals, including the award for Best British Film at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. 95. Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels is a 1998 black comedy crime film written and directed by Guy Ritchie, produced by Matthew Vaughn and starring an ensemble cast featuring Jason Fleming, Dexter Fletcher, Nick Moran, Stephen McIntosh and Sting, with Vinnie Jones and Jason Statham in their feature film debuts. The story describes a heist involving a self-confident young card sharp who loses £500,000 to a powerful crime lord in a rigged game of 3-card brag. To pay off his debts, he and his friends decide to rob a small-time gang who happen to be operating out of the flat next door. The film brought Ritchie international acclaim and introduced former Wales international footballer Jones and former diver Statham to worldwide audiences. It was also a commercial success, grossing over $28 million at the box office against a $1.35 million budget. 96. Ratcatcher is a 1999 drama film written and directed by Lynn Ramsay. Set in Glasgow, Scotland, it is her debut feature film and was screened in the Uncertain Regard section at the 1999 Cannes Film Festival. The film won its director numerous awards, including the Carl Foreman Award for Newcomer in British Film at the BAFTA Awards, the Sutherland Trophy at the London Film Festival and the Silver Hugo for Best Director at the Chicago International Film Festival. Ratcatcher grossed $888,817 worldwide. It was released on DVD and Blu-ray by the Criterion Collection. 97. Topsy-Turvy is a 1999 British musical period drama film written and directed by Mike Leigh, starring Jim Broadbent as W.S. Gilbert and Alan Cordner as Sir Arthur Sullivan, along with Timothy Spall, Leslie Manville and Ron Cook. The story concerns the 15-month period in 1884 and 1885 leading up to the premiere of Gilbert and Sullivan's The Mikado. The film focuses on the creative conflict between playwright and composer, and their decision to continue their partnership, which led to their creation of several more Savoy operas. The film received very favorable reviews, film festival awards, and 2 Academy Awards for design. While it is considered an artistic success as an in-depth illustration of British life in the theatre during the Victorian era, the film did not recover its production costs. Lee cast actors who did their own singing in the film, and the singing performances were faulted by some critics, while others lauded Lee's strategy. 98. Wonderland is a 1999 British drama film directed by Michael Winterbottom. The film stars Ian Hart, Shirley Henderson, Kika Markham, Gina McKee, Molly Parker, Jack Shepherd, John Sim, Stuart Townsend, Enzo Salenti, and Sarah Jane Potts. Wonderland had its world premiere at the 1999 Cannes Film Festival on May 13, 1999 and was released in the United Kingdom on January 14, 2000, by Universal Pictures. 99. A Room for Romeo Brass is a 1999 British teen comedy drama film directed by Shane Meadows, who also co-wrote the film with Paul Fraser. The film was mainly shot in Calverton, Nottinghamshire between September 5 and October 17, 1998. The location of the seaside scene was Chapel St. Leonard's in Lincolnshire. The film stars Andrew Shim as Romeo Brass, Ben Marshall as Gavin Woolley and Paddy Considine as Morel. It marked the screen debut of Vicky McClure and Considine, the latter of whom went on to star in Meadows' 2004 film, Dead Man's Shoes. It was nominated in 3 categories at the 1999 British Independent Film Awards. 100. Sexy Beast is a 2000 black comedy crime film directed by Jonathan Glazer, in his feature film directorial debut, and written by Lewis Mellis and David Sinto. It stars Ray Winstone, Ben Kingsley and Ian McShane. It follows Gary Dove Winstone, a retired criminal visited by a sociopathic gangster, Kingsley, who demands that he take part in a bank robbery. Sexy Beast was critically acclaimed and Kingsley's performance earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. In 2004 Total Film named Sexy Beast the 15th best British film. It was the final film to feature the actor Cavan Kendall, who died of cancer shortly after filming ended. 101. Billy Elliot is a 2000 British coming-of-age comedy drama film directed by Stephen Daldry and written by Lee Hall. Set in County Durham in northeast England during the 1984-1985 miners' strike, the film is about a working-class boy who discovers a passion for ballet. His father objects, based on negative stereotypes of male ballet dancers. The film stars Jamie Bell as 11-year-old Billy Gary Lewis as his father, Jamie Draven as Billy's older brother, and Julie Walters as his ballet teacher. Adapted from a play called Dancer by Lee Hall, development on the film began in 1999. Around 2,000 boys were considered for the role of Billy before Bell was chosen for the role. Filming began in the northeast of England in August 1999. Greg Brenman and John Finn served as producers, while Stephen Warbeck composed the film score. Billy Elliot is a co-production among BBC Films, Tiger Aspect Pictures and Working Title Films. The film premiered at the 2000 Cannes Film Festival, and began a wider theatrical release in the United Kingdom on September 29, 2000 by Universal Pictures through United International Pictures. Billy Elliot received positive critical response and commercial success, earning $109.3 million worldwide on a $5 million budget. At the 54th British Academy Film Awards the film won 3 of 13 award nominations. 102. Bread and Roses is a 2000 film directed by Ken Loach, starring Pilar Padilla, Adrian Brody, and Elpidia Carrillo. The plot deals with the struggle of poorly paid janitorial workers in Los Angeles and their fight for better working conditions and the right to unionize. It is based on the Justice for Janitors campaign of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU, and the lead union organizer, Sam Shapiro, is based on SEIU organizer Jono Schaefer. The film is critical of inequalities in the United States. Health insurance in particular is highlighted, and it is also stated in the film that the pay of cleaners and other low-paying jobs has declined in recent years. 103. Chicken Run is a 2000 animated adventure comedy film produced by Path and Aardman Animations in partnership with DreamWorks Animation. Aardman's first feature-length film, it was directed by Peter Lord and Nick Park, in their feature-length directorial debuts, from a screenplay by Kerry Kirkpatrick and based on an original story by Lord and Park. The film stars the voices of Julia Sawalha, Mel Gibson, Tony Haygarth, Miranda Richardson, Phil Daniels, Lynn Ferguson, Timothy Spall, Imelda Staunton, and Benjamin Whitrow. Set in the countryside of Yorkshire, the plot centers on a group of British anthropomorphic chickens who see an American rooster named Rocky Roads as their only hope to escape the farm when their owners want to turn them into chicken pies. Chicken Run was a critical and commercial success, grossing over $220 million and becoming the highest-grossing stop-motion animated film in history. At the time, this film was DreamWorks Animation's most successful release, but this was overtaken by Shrek the following year. 104. The House of Mirth is a 2000 drama film written and directed by Terence Davies. An adaptation of Edith Wharton's 1905 novel The House of Mirth, the film stars Gillian Anderson. It is an international co-production between the United Kingdom, Germany, and the United States. 105. Gosford Park is a 2001 satirical black comedy mystery film directed by Robert Altman and written by Julian Fellows. It was influenced by Jean Renoir's French classic La Règle du jeu, The Rules of the Game. The film stars an ensemble cast, which includes Eileen Atkins, Bob Balaban, Alan Bates, Charles Dance, Stephen Fry, Michael Gambon, Richard E. Grant, Derek Jacobi, Kelly MacDonald, Helen Mirren, Jeremy Northam, Clive Owen, Ryan Phillip, Maggie Smith, Kristen Scott Thomas, and Emily Watson. The story follows a party of wealthy Britons plus an American producer, and their servants, who gather for a shooting weekend at Gosford Park, an English country house. A murder occurs after a dinner party, and the film goes on to present the subsequent investigation from the servants' and guests' perspectives. 106. Bridget Jones's Diary is a 2001 romantic comedy film directed by Sharon Maguire and written by Richard Curtis, Andrew Davies, and Helen Fielding. A co-production of the United Kingdom, United States and France, it is based on Fielding's 1996 novel of the same name, which is a reinterpretation of Jane Austen's 1813 novel Pride and Prejudice. The adaptation stars Renée Zellweger as Bridget Jones, a 32-year-old British single woman, who writes a diary which focuses on the things she wishes to happen in her life. However, her life changes when two men vie for her affection, portrayed by Colin Firth and Hugh Grant. Jim Broadbent and Gemma Jones appear in supporting roles. Production began in August 2000 and ended in November 2000, and took place largely on location in London and the home counties. Bridget Jones's Diary premiered on April 4, 2001 in the United Kingdom and was released to theaters on April 13, 2001 simultaneously in the United Kingdom and in the United States. It grossed over $280 million worldwide and received positive reviews, with critics highlighting Zellweger's titular performance, which garnered her a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Over the years, it has been hailed as part of the English pop culture, with Bridget Jones being cited as a British cultural icon. 107. 24-Hour Party People is a 2002 British biographical comedy drama film about Manchester's popular music community from 1976 to 1992, and specifically about Factory Records. It was written by Frank Cottrell Boyce and directed by Michael Winterbottom. The film was entered into the 2002 Cannes Film Festival to positive reviews. It begins with the punk rock era of the late 1970s and moves through the 1980s into the rave and DJ culture and the Manchester scene of the late 1980s and early 1990s. The main character is Tony Wilson, played by Steve Coogan, a news reporter for Granada Television and the head of Factory Records. The narrative largely follows his career, while also covering the careers of the major factory artists, especially Joy Division and New Order, A Certain Ratio, The Durruti Column and Happy Mondays. 108. 28 Days Later is a 2002 British post-apocalyptic horror film directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. It stars Cillian Murphy as a bicycle courier who awakens from a coma to discover the accidental release of a highly contagious, aggression-inducing virus has caused the breakdown of society. Naomi Harris, Christopher Eccleston, Megan Burns, and Brendan Gleeson appear in supporting roles. Garland took inspiration from George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead film series and John Wyndham's 1951 novel The Day of the Triffids. Filming took place in various locations in the United Kingdom in 2001. The crew filmed for brief periods during early mornings and temporarily closed streets to capture recognizable and typically busy areas when they were deserted. John Murphy composed an original soundtrack for the film, with other instrumental songs by Brian Eno, Godspeed You!, Black Emperor and other artists also being featured. 28 Days Later was released on November 1, 2002 to critical acclaim and financial success. Grossing more than $82.7 million worldwide on its modest budget of $8 million, it became one of the most profitable horror films of 2002. 109. In This World is a 2002 British docudrama directed by Michael Winterbottom. The film follows two young Afghan refugees, Jamaluddin Tarabi and Inayatullah, as they leave a refugee camp in Pakistan for a better life in London. Since their journey is illegal, it is fraught with danger, and they must use backchannels, bribes, and smugglers to achieve their goal. The film won the Golden Bear Prize at the 2003 Berlin International Film Festival and BAFTA Award for Best Film Not in the English Language at the 57th British Academy Film Awards. The film was nominated for Alexander Korda Award for Best British Film but lost to Touching the Void, directed by the Last King of Scotland director Kevin MacDonald. 110. Morvern Callar is a 2002 British psychological drama film directed by Lynn Ramsay and starring Samantha Morton as the titular character. The screenplay, co-written by Ramsay and Liana Dognini, was based on the 1995 novel of the same name by Alan Warner. The film received positive reviews from critics. 111. In the Cut is a 2003 American psychological thriller film written and directed by Jane Campion and starring Meg Ryan, Mark Ruffalo, Jennifer Jason Leigh and Kevin Bacon. Campion's screenplay is an adaptation of the 1995 novel of the same name by Susanna Moore. The film focuses on an English teacher who becomes personally entangled with a detective investigating a series of gruesome murders in her Manhattan neighborhood. The film received a limited release on October 22, 2003, in the United States, and was subsequently given a wide release on Halloween that year in the United States and United Kingdom. The film received mixed reviews from critics upon release. Negative reviews were critical of the story and narrative structure, while positive reviews praised the acting and Campion's visuals. 112. Dead Man's Shoes is a 2004 British psychological thriller film directed by Shane Meadows and starring Paddy Considine, both of whom co-wrote the film with Paul Fraser. The film also stars Toby Kebbell, in his first film appearance, Gary Stretch and Stuart Wolfenden. It was released in the United Kingdom on October 1, 2004 and in the United States on May 12, 2006. Filming took place in the summer of 2003 over the course of 3 weeks. 113. Vera Drake is a 2004 British period drama film written and directed by Mike Leigh and starring Imelda Staunton, Phil Davis, Daniel Mays, and Eddie Marsan. It tells the story of a working-class woman in London in 1950 who performs illegal abortions. It won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival and it was nominated for 3 Academy Awards and won 3 BAFTAs. 114. Shaun of the Dead is a 2004 British romantic zombie comedy film directed by Edgar Wright, who co-wrote it with Simon Pegg. The film stars Pegg as Shaun, a downtrodden London salesman who gets caught alongside his loved ones in a zombie apocalypse. It also stars Nick Frost, Kate Ashfield, Lucy Davis, Dylan Moran, Bill Nighy, and Penelope Wilton. It is the first installment in Wright and Pegg's Three Flavors Cornetto trilogy, followed by Hot Fuzz, 2007, and The World's End, 2013, both of which also star Pegg and Frost. 115. Batman Begins is a 2005 superhero film directed by Christopher Nolan and written by Nolan and David S. Goyer. Based on the DC Comics character Batman, it stars Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne/Batman, with Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Katie Holmes, Gary Oldman, Cillian Murphy, Tom Wilkinson, Rutger Hauer, Ken Watanabe, and Morgan Freeman in supporting roles. The film reboots the Batman film series, telling the origin story of Bruce Wayne from the death of his parents to his journey to become Batman and his fight to stop Ra's al Ghul and the Scarecrow from plunging Gotham City into chaos. After Batman and Robin was panned by critics and underperformed at the box office, Warner Bros. Pictures canceled future Batman films, including Joel Schumacher's planned Batman Unchained. Between 1998 and 2003, several filmmakers collaborated with Warner Bros. In attempting to reboot the franchise. After the studio rejected a Batman origin story reboot Joss Whedon pitched in December 2002, Warner Bros. Hired Nolan in January 2003 to direct a new film. 116. The Descent is a 2005 British horror film written and directed by Neil Marshall. The film follows 6 women who enter a cave system and struggle to survive against the humanoid creatures inside. Filming took place in the United Kingdom. Exterior scenes were filmed at Ashridge Park, Hertfordshire, and in Scotland. Because the filmmakers considered it too dangerous and time-consuming to shoot in an actual cave, interior scenes were filmed on sets built at Pinewood Studios near London designed by Simon Bowles. The Descent opened in cinemas in the United Kingdom on July 8, 2005. It premiered in the 2006 Sundance Film Festival and released on August 4, 2006 in the United States. The film received positive reviews, was a box office success, grossing $57.1 million against a £3.5 million budget and is often regarded as one of the best horror films of the 2000s. 117. This Is England is a 2006 British drama film written and directed by Shane Meadows. The story centers on young skinheads in England in 1983. The film illustrates how their subculture, which has its roots in 1960s West Indies culture, especially ska, soul, and reggae music, became influenced by the far right, especially white nationalists and white supremacists, which led to divisions within the skinhead scene. The film's title is a direct reference to a scene where the character Combo explains his nationalist views using the phrase, "This is England," during his speech. This Is England received critical acclaim and went on to gross £5 million at the box office. Its success led to the creation of 3 sequel TV series, This Is England 86, 2010, This Is England 88, 2011, and This Is England 90, 2015. 118. London to Brighton is a 2006 British neo-noir crime film written and directed by Paul Andrew Williams. The film won a British Independent Film Award for Best Achievement in Production. Williams won the Golden Hitchcock Award at the Dinant Festival of British Cinema, the New Directors Award at the Edinburgh International Film Festival, Best Feature Film at the Foyle Film Festival, and a Jury Prize at the Raindance Film Festival. 119. Children of Men is a 2006 dystopian action thriller film directed and co-written by Alfonso Cuarón. The screenplay, based on P. D. James' 1992 novel The Children of Men, was credited to 5 writers, with Clive Owen making uncredited contributions. The film is set in 2027 when 2 decades of human infertility have left society on the brink of collapse. Asylum seekers seek sanctuary in the United Kingdom where they are subjected to detention and refoulement by the government. Owen plays civil servant Theo Farron, who tries to help refugee Key, Claire Hope Ashidi, escape the chaos. Children of Men also stars Julianne Moore, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Pam Ferris, Charlie Hunnam, and Michael Caine. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Best Film Editing. It was also nominated for 3 BAFTA Awards, winning Best Cinematography and Best Production Design, and for 3 Saturn Awards, winning Best Science Fiction Film. In 2016 it was voted 13th among 100 films considered the best of the 21st century by 117 film critics from around the world. 120. Atonement is a 2007 romantic war drama film directed by Joe Wright and starring James McAvoy, Keira Knightley, Saoirse Ronan, Romola Garai, and Vanessa Redgrave. It is based on the 2001 novel of the same name by Ian McEwan. The film chronicles a crime and its consequences over the course of 6 decades, beginning in the 1930s. It was produced for Studio Canal and filmed in England. Distributed in most of the world by Universal Studios, it was released theatrically in the United Kingdom on September 7, 2007 and in North America on December 7, 2007. Atonement opened both the 2007 Vancouver International Film Festival and the 64th Venice International Film Festival, making Wright, at age 35, the youngest director ever to open the Venice event. The film was a commercial success and earned a worldwide gross of approximately $129 million against a budget of $30 million. 121. Unrelated is a 2007 British drama film written and directed by Joanna Hogg, starring Catherine Worth, Tom Hiddleston, in his feature film debut, Mary Roscoe, David Rintoul and Henry Lloyd Hughes. It was released in the US on February 20, 2008. 122. Sunshine is a 2007 science fiction psychological thriller film directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. Taking place in the year 2057, the story follows a group of astronauts on a dangerous mission to reignite the dying sun. The ensemble cast features Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Rose Byrne, Michelle Yeoh, Cliff Curtis, Troy Garrity, Hiroyuki Sanada, Benedict Wong, Chipo Chung, and Mark Strong. The director cast a group of international actors for the film and had the actors live together and learn about topics related to their roles, as a form of method acting. Sunshine was released in the United Kingdom on April 6, 2007 and in the United States on July 20, 2007. The film took £3.2 million in the UK over 12 weeks, and in the USA it was placed number 13 in the box office on the first weekend of its wide release. With a budget of US $40 million, it ultimately grossed US $32 million worldwide. 123. Hunger is a 2008 historical drama film about the 1981 Irish hunger strike. It was directed by Steve McQueen and starred Michael Fassbender, Liam Cunningham, and Liam McMahon. It premiered at the 2008 Cannes Film Festival, winning the prestigious Camera d'Or Award for First-Time Filmmakers. It went on to win the Sydney Film Prize at the Sydney Film Festival. the Grand Prix of the Belgian Syndicate of Cinema Critics Best Picture from the Evening Standard British Film Awards, and received 2 BAFTA nominations, winning 1. The film was also nominated for 8 awards at the 2009 IFTAs, winning 6 at the event. 124, Man on Wire is a 2008 documentary film directed by James Marsh. The film chronicles Philippe Petit's 1974 high-wire walk between the Twin Towers of New York's World Trade Center. It is based on Petit's 2002 book, To Reach the Clouds, released in paperback with the title Man on Wire. The title of the film is taken from the police report that led to the arrest, and later release, of Petit, whose performance lasted for almost an hour. The film is crafted like a heist film, presenting rare footage of the preparations for the event and still photographs of the walk, alongside reenactments, with Paul McGill as the young Petit, and present-day interviews with the participants, including Barry Greenhouse, an insurance executive who served as the inside man. Man on Wire competed in the World Cinema Documentary Competition at the 2008 Sundance Film Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize, World Cinema Documentary and the World Cinema Audience Award, Documentary. In February 2009 the film won the BAFTA for Outstanding British Film and the Independent Spirit Award for Best Documentary. As of 2022, it is one of only 6 documentary films to ever sweep the Big Four Critics Awards, LA, NBR, New York, NSFC, and the only one of those to also win the Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. 125. Slumdog Millionaire is a 2008 British drama film that is a loose adaptation of the novel Q&A, 2005, by Indian author Vikas Swarup. It narrates the story of 18-year-old Jamal Malik from the Juhu slums of Mumbai. Starring Dev Patel in his film debut as Jamal, and filmed in India. It was directed by Danny Boyle, written by Simon Beaufoy, and produced by Christian Coulson, with Loveleen Tundon credited as co-director. As a contestant on Kaun Banega Crorepati, an Indian Hindi version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Jamal surprises everyone by answering every question correctly, winning 2 Indian rupees crore, $240,000. Accused of cheating, he recounts his life story to the police, illustrating how he was able to answer each question. After its world premiere at the Telluride Film Festival and later screenings at the Toronto International Film Festival and the London Film Festival, Slumdog Millionaire had a nationwide release in the United Kingdom on January 9, 2009, and in India on January 23, 2009, where it saw the majority of its original success and notoriety. In the United States, it was released on December 25, 2008. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards in 2009 and won 8, the most for any 2008 film, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay. It won 7 BAFTA awards including Best Film, 5 Critics' Choice Awards and 4 Golden Globes. However, reception in India and among Indian diaspora was mixed, and the film was the subject of controversy over its depiction of poverty in India and other issues. The Hindustan Times called it an assault on Indian self-esteem. 126. Fish Tank is a 2009 British drama film written and directed by Andrea Arnold. The film is about Mia, a volatile and socially isolated 15-year-old, and her relationship with her mother's new boyfriend. Fish Tank was well received and won the jury prize at the 2009 Cannes Film Festival. It also won the 2010 BAFTA for Best British Film. It was included in the BBC's The 21st Century's 100 Greatest Films, compiled in 2016, ranking at number 65 on the list. The film was funded by BBC Films and the UK Film Council. It was theatrically released on September 11, 2009 by Curzon Artificial Eye. 127. Looking for Eric is a 2009 sports comedy drama film directed by Ken Loach and written by Paul Laverty. It is an international co-production between the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Belgium, and Spain. It stars Steve Ovitz, Eric Cantona, John Henshaw, and Stephanie Bishop. It follows a middle-aged postman who, working for the Manchester sorting office, is going through a dreadful crisis. The film had its world premiere at the 62nd Cannes Film Festival on May 18, 2009, where it was awarded the prize of the Ecumenical Jury. It was theatrically released in France on May 27, 2009 by Diaphana Distribution, and in the United Kingdom on June 12, 2009 by Icon Film Distribution. It received positive reviews from critics and grossed over $11.6 million worldwide. For their performances, Henshaw won Best Supporting Actor at the 12th British Independent Film Awards and Ovitz was nominated for Best Actor at the 22nd European Film Awards. 128. Bright Star is a 2009 biographical romantic drama film, written and directed by Jane Campion. It is based on the last 3 years of the life of poet John Keats, played by Ben Whishaw, and his romantic relationship with Fanny Braun, Abbie Cornish. Campion's screenplay was inspired by a 1997 biography of Keats by Andrew Motion, who served as a script consultant. Bright Star was in the main competition at the 2009 Cannes Film Festival, and was first shown to the public on May 15, 2009. The film's title is a reference to a sonnet by Keats titled, Bright Star, Would I Were Steadfast as Thou Art, which he wrote while he was with Braun. 129. Four Lions, originally titled We Are Four Lions, is a 2010 British political satire black comedy film directed by Chris Morris, in his directorial debut, and written by Morris, Sam Bain, and Jesse Armstrong. The film, a jihad satire following a group of homegrown terrorist jihadis from Sheffield, South Yorkshire, England, stars Riz Ahmed, Kayvan Novak, Nigel Lindsay, Arshur Ali and Adil Akhtar. 130. Monsters is a 2010 British science fiction horror film written and directed by Gareth Edwards, in his feature directorial debut. Edwards also served as the cinematographer, production designer, and a visual effects artist. The film takes place years after a NASA probe crashed in Mexico, which leads to the sudden appearance of giant tentacled monsters. It follows Andrew Calder, Scoot McNairy, an American photojournalist tasked with escorting his employer's daughter Samantha Winden, Whitney Abel, back to the United States by crossing through Mexico's infected zone, where the creatures reside. The film received generally positive reviews and was a box office success, grossing $4.2 million against a budget of less than $500,000. Monsters, Dark Continent, a sequel, was released in the UK on May 1, 2015. 131. Another Year is a 2010 British comedy drama film written and directed by Mike Leigh. It stars Jim Broadbent, Leslie Manville, and Ruth Sheen. It follows a year in the life of an older couple who have been happily married for a long time, making them an anomaly among their friends and family members. The film had its world premiere at the 63rd Cannes Film Festival on May 15, 2010, and was theatrically released in the United Kingdom on November 5, 2010, by Momentum Pictures. It grossed $20 million worldwide and received positive reviews from critics, who praised Leigh's screenplay and the performances of the cast, particularly Manville. It was nominated for Best British Film and Best Actress in a Supporting Role, for Manville, at the 64th British Academy Film Awards, while Leigh earned a Best Original Screenplay nomination at the 83rd Academy Awards. The film was also nominated for Best Actress, for Manville, and Best Composer at the 23rd European Film Awards. 132. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is a 2011 British Cold War spy thriller film directed by Tomas Alfredson. The screenplay was written by Bridget O'Connor and Peter Strahan, based on John le Carré's 1974 novel of the same name. The film stars Gary Oldman as George Smiley, with Colin Firth, Tom Hardy, John Hurt, Toby Jones, Mark Strong, Benedict Cumberbatch, Ciarán Hinds, David Dencik and Kathy Burke supporting. It is set in London in the early 1970s and follows the hunt for a Soviet double agent at the top of the British Secret Service. The film was produced through the British company Working Title Films and financed by France's Studio Canal. It premiered in competition at the 68th Venice International Film Festival. A critical and commercial success, it was the highest-grossing film at the British box office for 3 consecutive weeks. It won the BAFTA Award for Best British Film. The film also received 3 Oscar nominations, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, and for Oldman, Best Actor. 133. Tyrannosaur is a 2011 British drama film written and directed by Paddy Considine and starring Peter Mullen, Olivia Colman, Eddie Marsan, Paul Popplewell and Sally Carman. The film grossed £396,930, below its £750,000 production budget. 134. Shame is a 2011 British erotic psychological drama film set in New York, directed by Steve McQueen, co-written by McQueen and Abby Morgan, and starring Michael Fassbender and Carey Mulligan as grown siblings. It was co-produced by Film 4 and Seesaw Films. The film's explicit scenes reflecting the protagonist's sexual addiction resulted in a rating of NC-17 in the United States. Shame was released in the United Kingdom on January 13, 2012. It received generally positive reviews, with praise for Fassbender's and Mulligan's performances, realistic depiction of sexual addiction, and direction. 135. Skyfall is a 2012 spy film and the 23rd in the James Bond series produced by Ian Productions. The film is the third to star Daniel Craig as fictional MI6 agent James Bond and features Javier Bardem as Raul Silva, the villain, with Judi Dench returning as M. Directed by Sam Mendes and written by Neil Purvis, Robert Wade, and John Logan, the film has Bond investigating a series of targeted data leaks and coordinated attacks on MI6 led by Silva. The film was nominated for 5 awards at the 85th Academy Awards, winning 2. Skyfall grossed $1 billion worldwide, the 14th film to do so, and became the then 7th highest grossing film of all time, the highest grossing James Bond film, the second highest grossing film of 2012, and the then highest grossing film released by Sony or MGM. The next film in the series, Spectre, was released in 2015. Skyfall earned $1.109 billion worldwide and at the time of its release was the highest-grossing film worldwide for Sony Pictures and the second highest-grossing film of 2012. On its opening weekend, it earned $80.6 million from 25 markets. In the UK, the film grossed £20.1 million on its opening weekend, making it the second highest Friday-to-Sunday debut ever behind Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2. It also achieved the second highest IMAX debut ever behind The Dark Knight Rises. The film set a record for the highest 7-day gross with £37.2 million surpassing previous record holder Deathly Hallows Part 2, £35.7 million. By November 9, 2012 the film had earned over £57 million to surpass The Dark Knight Rises as the highest grossing film of 2012, and the highest grossing James Bond film of all time in the UK. 136. Startup is a 2013 British prison crime drama film directed by David Mackenzie and written by Jonathan Asser. Starring Jack O'Connell, Ben Mendelsohn and Rupert Friend. The film is based on Jonathan Asser's experiences working as a voluntary therapist at HM Prison Wandsworth, with some of the country's most violent criminals. The title refers to the early transfer of a criminal from a young offender institution to an adult prison. 137. Under the Skin is a 2013 science fiction film directed by Jonathan Glazer and written by Glazer and Walter Campbell, loosely based on the 2000 novel by Michel Faber. It stars Scarlett Johansson as an otherworldly woman who preys on men in Scotland. The film premiered at Telluride Film Festival on August 29, 2013. It was released in the United Kingdom on March 14, 2014, and in other territories later in the year. Glazer developed Under the Skin for over a decade. He and Campbell pared it back from an elaborate, special effects-heavy concept to a sparse story focusing on an alien perspective on the human world. Most of the cast had no acting experience and many scenes were filmed with hidden cameras. It was ranked 61st on the BBC's 100 Greatest Films of the 21st Century list. It was a box office failure, grossing around $7 million on a budget of $13.3 million. 138. Paddington is a 2014 live-action animated comedy film written and directed by Paul King. It was developed from a story by King and Hamish McCall, which was based on the stories of the character Paddington Bear created by Michael Bond. Produced by David Heyman, Paddington stars Ben Whishaw as the voice of the title character with Hugh Bonneville, Sally Hawkins, Julie Walters, Jim Broadbent, Peter Capaldi, and Nicole Kidman in live-action roles. The film tells the story of Paddington, an anthropomorphic bear who migrates from the jungles of darkest Peru to the streets of London, where he is adopted by the Brown family. Kidman plays a taxidermist who attempts to add him to her collection. Paddington was released in the United Kingdom on November 28, 2014 to critical acclaim for Whishaw's vocal performance, humor, screenplay, visual effects and appeal to children and adults. It grossed $268 million worldwide on a €38.50 $55 million budget. It received 2 nominations at the BAFTAs, Best British Film and Best Adapted Screenplay. A sequel, Paddington 2, was released in 2017 with King and much of the cast returning. 139. Mr. Turner is a 2014 biographical drama film based on the last 25 years of the life of artist J. M. W. Turner, 1775 to 1851. Written and directed by Mike Leigh, the film stars Timothy Spall in the title role, with Dorothy Atkinson, Paul Jessen, Marion Bailey, Leslie Manville, and Martin Savage. It premiered in competition for the Palme d'Or at the 2014 Cannes Film Festival, where Spall won the award for Best Actor and Dick Pope received a special jury prize for the film's cinematography. The film was critically acclaimed and received 4 nominations each at the 87th Academy Awards and 68th British Academy Film Awards. 140. Ex Machina is a 2014 science fiction psychological thriller film written and directed by Alex Garland in his directorial debut. A co-production between the United Kingdom and the United States, it stars Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, and Oscar Isaac. It follows a programmer who is invited by his CEO to administer the Turing test to an intelligent humanoid robot. It grossed over $36.8 million worldwide against a $15 million budget. It received widespread critical acclaim, with praise for its visual effects, screenplay, and performances. At the 88th Academy Awards, the film won Best Visual Effects and Garland was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. It earned 5 nominations at the 69th British Academy Film Awards, including Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Vikander and Best Original Screenplay for Garland, and Vikander was also nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the 73rd Golden Globe Awards. Since its release, it has been cited as among the best films of the 2010s. 141, 71, 2014. 71 is a 2014 British thriller film written by Gregory Burke and directed by Jan de Mange, in his feature directorial debut. Set in Northern Ireland, it stars Jack O'Connell, Sean Harris, David Wilmot, Richard Dormer, Paul Anderson and Charlie Murphy, and tells the fictional story of a British soldier who becomes separated from his unit during a riot in Belfast at the height of the Troubles in 1971. Filming began on location in Blackburn, Lancashire, in April 2013 and continued in Sheffield, Leeds and Liverpool. The film was funded by the British Film Institute, Film 4, Creative Scotland and Screen Yorkshire, and had its premiere in the competition section of the 64th Berlin International Film Festival, held in February 2014, where it was particularly praised for O'Connell's performance and de Mange's direction. 142. 45 Years is a 2015 British romantic drama film directed and written by Andrew Hay. The film is based on the short story, In Another Country, by David Constantine. The film premiered in the main competition section of the 65th Berlin International Film Festival. Charlotte Rampling won the Silver Bear for Best Actress and Tom Courtenay won the Silver Bear for Best Actor. At the 88th Academy Awards, Rampling received a nomination for Best Actress in a Leading Role. It was selected to be screened in the special presentation section of the 2015 Toronto International Film Festival and also screened at the 2015 Telluride Festival. It was released in the United Kingdom on August 28, 2015. The film was released in the United States by Sundance Selects on December 23, 2015. 143. Amy is a 2015 British documentary film directed by Asif Kapadia and produced by James Gay-Rees. The film covers British singer-songwriter Amy Winehouse's life and her struggle with substance abuse, both before and after her career blossomed, and which eventually caused her death. In February 2015, a teaser trailer based on the life of Winehouse debuted at a pre-Grammys event. David Joseph, CEO of Universal Music UK, announced that the documentary titled Amy would be released later that year. He further stated, "About 2 years ago we decided to make a movie about her, her career and her life. It's a very complicated and tender movie. It tackles lots of things about family and media, fame, addiction, but most importantly, it captures the very heart of what she was about, which is an amazing person and a true musical genius." Amy premiered at the 2015 Cannes Film Festival, being shown in the midnight screening section. The film received critical acclaim, garnering 33 nominations and winning a total of 30 awards, including Best Documentary at the 28th European Film Awards, Best Documentary at the 69th British Academy Film Awards, Best Music Film at the 58th Grammy Awards and the Best Documentary Feature at the 88th Academy Awards. 144. Daniel Blake is a 2016 British drama film written by Paul Laverty and directed by Ken Loach. The film stars Dave Johns as Daniel Blake, a middle-aged man who is denied employment and support allowance despite being declared unfit to work by his doctor. Hayley Squires co-stars as Katie, a struggling single mother whom Daniel befriends. Daniel Blake won the Palme d'Or at the 2016 Cannes Film Festival, the Prix du Public at the 2016 Locarno International Film Festival, and the 2017 BAFTA Award for Outstanding British Film. 145. Under the Shadow is a 2016 Persian-language psychological horror film written and directed by Iranian-born Babak Anvari as his directorial debut. A mother and daughter are haunted by a mysterious evil in 1980s Tehran, during the War of the Cities. The film stars Nargiz Rashidi, Avin Manshadi, Bobby Naduri, Ray Haratian, and Arash Marandi. Produced by British film company Wigwam Films, the film is an international co-production between Qatar, Jordan, and the United Kingdom. The film premiered at the 2016 Sundance Film Festival and has been acquired by US streaming service Netflix. The film received critical acclaim. It was selected as the British entry for the Best Foreign Language Film at the 89th Academy Awards, but it was not nominated. 146. Lady Macbeth is a 2016 British period drama film directed by William Oldroyd. Written for the screen by Alice Birch, it is based on the 1865 novella Lady Macbeth of the Mtsensk district by Nikolai Leskov. It stars Florence Pugh, Cosmo Jarvis, Paul Hilton, Naomi Ackie, and Christopher Fairbank. The plot follows a young woman who is stifled by her loveless marriage to a bitter man twice her age. Lady Macbeth had its world premiere at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 10, 2016, and was released in the United Kingdom on April 28, 2017 by Altitude Film Distribution. It received positive reviews and has grossed $5.4 million worldwide. 147. God's Own Country is a 2017 British romantic drama film written and directed by Francis Lee in his feature directorial debut. The film stars Josh O'Connor and Alex Sakarianu. The plot follows a young sheep farmer in Yorkshire whose life is transformed by a Romanian migrant worker. Upon release, the film received widespread acclaim from critics, who praised the performances, particularly O'Connor's, and story, as well as commending it as a promising start for Lee. It was the only UK-based production to feature in the World Drama category at the 2017 Sundance Film Festival, where it won the World Cinema Directing Award. 148. Dunkirk is a 2017 epic historical war thriller film written, directed and co-produced by Christopher Nolan that depicts the Dunkirk evacuation of World War II from the perspectives of the land, sea and air. It features an ensemble cast comprising Finn Whitehead, Tom Glencarny, Jack Lowden, Harry Styles in his film debut, Aneurin Barnard, James D'Arcy, Barry Keoghan, Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy, Mark Rylance, and Tom Hardy. Distributed by Warner Bros. Pictures, Dunkirk premiered at Odeon Leicester Square in London, a few days before its release in the United Kingdom and United States on July 21, 2017. It grossed $527 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing World War II film until it was surpassed by Nolan's own Oppenheimer, 2023. It received various accolades, including 8 nominations at the 90th Academy Awards, Best Picture and Best Director, Nolan's first directing Oscar nomination. It went on to win for Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing and Best Film Editing. 149. Matangi, Maya. MIA is a 2018 biographical documentary film about English rapper and artist MIA directed by Steve Loveridge. The film follows 22 years in the rapper's life, her rise to fame and her perspective on the controversies sparked over her music, public appearances and political activism. The film premiered at the 2018 Sundance Film Festival and has appeared at several other international festivals since. It was released in select cinemas in the United Kingdom on September 21, 2018 and in the United States on September 28, 2018. The documentary was well received, winning the World Cinema Documentary Special Jury Award for Steve Loveridge at the Sundance Film Festival. 150. The Favorite is a 2018 period black comedy film directed by Yorgos Lanthimos from a screenplay by Deborah Davis and Tony McNamara, starring Olivia Colman, Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz. Set in early 18th century Great Britain, the plot trails the relationship between cousins Sarah Churchill, Duchess of Marlborough and Abigail Hill as they vie to be court favorite of Queen Anne. Principal photography for the British-Irish-American production took place at Hatfield House in Hertfordshire and at Hampton Court Palace, lasting from March to May 2017. The film premiered on August 30, 2018 at the 75th Venice International Film Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize and the Volpe Cup for Best Actress for Colman. It was released theatrically in the United States on November 23, 2018 by Fox Searchlight Pictures and in the United Kingdom and Ireland on January 1, 2019. The film was a box office success, grossing $95 million worldwide on a $15 million budget. 151. The Souvenir is a 2019 drama film written and directed by Joanna Hogg. A semi-autobiographical account of Hogg's experiences at film school, it stars Honor Swinton, Burntom Burke and Tilda Swinton. The Souvenir had its world premiere at the Sundance Film Festival on January 17, 2019 and was released in the US on May 17, 2019 by A24 and in the UK on August 30, 2019 by Curzon Artificial Eye. It received critical acclaim. A sequel, The Souvenir Part 2, was released in 2021. 152 Beats is a 2019 American coming-of-age drama film directed by Chris Robinson, from a screenplay by Miles Orion Feldsot. The film stars Anthony Anderson, Khalil Everidge, Yuzo Aduba, Imayatsi Koronialdi, Paul Walter Hauser, Dave East, Ashley Jackson, Evan J. Simpson, and Dreezy, and follows a reclusive, teenage music prodigy forms an unlikely friendship with a struggling producer. United by their mutual love of hip-hop, they try to free each other from the demons of their past and break into the city's music scene. It was released onto Netflix on June 19, 2019 and received generally positive reviews from critics. 153 His House is a 2020 horror thriller film written and directed by Remy Weeks from a story by Felicity Evans and Toby Venables. It stars Wunmi Mosaku, Soap Deraisu, and Matt Smith. The film tells the story of a refugee couple from South Sudan struggling to adjust to their new life in an English town that has an evil lurking beneath the surface. It had its world premiere at the Sundance Film Festival on January 27, 2020. It was released on October 30, 2020 by Netflix and received widespread acclaim from critics. 154 Mangrove is a 2020 historical drama film directed by British director Steve McQueen and co-written by McQueen and Alastair Siddons, about the Mangrove restaurant in West London and the 1971 trial of the Mangrove Nine. It stars Letitia Wright, Sean Parks, Malachi Kirby, Rokenda Sandal, Alex Jennings, and Jack Lowden. The film was released as part of the anthology series Small Axe on BBC One on November 15, 2020 and Amazon Prime Video on November 20, 2020. It premiered as the opening film at the 58th New York Film Festival on September 24, 2020. 155 Belfast is a 2021 British coming-of-age drama film written and directed by Kenneth Branagh. The film stars Katrina Balfe, Judi Dench, Jamie Dornan, Kieran Hines, Colin Morgan and Jude Hill. The film, which Branagh has described as his most personal, follows a young boy's childhood in Belfast, Northern Ireland, at the beginning of the Troubles in 1969. The film received 7 nominations at the 94th Academy Awards, including Best Picture, winning for Best Original Screenplay. It was named one of the best films of 2021 by the National Board of Review and tied with The Power of the Dog for a leading 7 nominations at the 79th Golden Globe Awards, including Best Motion Picture, Drama, and 1 for Best Screenplay. It also tied with West Side Story for a leading 11 nominations at the 27th Critics' Choice Awards including Best Picture, and also received 6 nominations at the 75th British Academy Film Awards, winning Outstanding British Film. 156 Supernova is a 2020 British romantic drama film written and directed by Harry McQueen. The film stars Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci. Supernova had its world premiere at the 68th San Sebastian International Film Festival on September 22, 2020 and was released in the United States on January 29, 2021 by Bleecker Street, and in the United Kingdom on June 25, 2021 by Studio Canal. 157 Ear for Eye, stylized as Ear for Eye, is a British drama film, written and directed by Debbie Tucker-Green, based upon her play of the same name. It stars Lashana Lynch, Tosin Cole, Carmen Munro, Danny Sapani, Nadine Marshall, Arins Keane and Jade Anuka. The film had its world premiere at the BFI London Film Festival on October 16, 2021 and aired on the BBC on the same day. 158 After Sun is a 2022 coming-of-age drama film written and directed by Charlotte Wells in her feature directorial debut. Starring Paul Mescal, Frankie Corio, and Celia Rowlson Hall. The film follows an 11-year-old Scottish girl on holiday with her father at a Turkish resort on the eve of his 31st birthday. After Sun had its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival on May 21, 2022, where Wells was nominated for the Camera d'Or. It was theatrically released in the United States on October 21, 2022, and in the United Kingdom on November 18, 2022. The film received widespread acclaim from critics, who praised Wells' direction and screenplay, and the performances of Corio and Mescal. It received 4 nominations at the 76th BAFTA Awards, where Wells won for Outstanding Debut by a British Writer, Director, or Producer. Mescal was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actor at the 95th Academy Awards. Aftersun was named one of the best films of 2022 by the National Board of Review and was awarded top place by Sight and Sound on its poll for the best films of 2022. 159. The Souvenir Part 2 is a 2021 drama film, written and directed by Joanna Hogg. It is a sequel to The Souvenir, 2019. It stars Honor Swinton-Byrne, Jagan Aya, Richard Ayoade, James Spencer Ashworth, Harris Dickinson, Charlie Heaton, Joe Alwyn, and Tilda Swinton. The film had its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival on July 8, 2021. It was released in the United States on October 29, 2021, by A24, and was released in the United Kingdom on February 4, 2022, by Picturehouse Entertainment. The film received critical acclaim. 160. Rye Lane is a 2023 British romantic comedy film directed by Rain Allen Miller in her feature directorial debut, from a screenplay by Nathan Bryan and Tom Melia. Set in the South London areas of Peckham and Brixton, the film is titled after the real-life Rye Lane market. It stars David Johnson and Vivian Opera as two strangers who have a chance encounter, after having both been through recent breakups, and spend the day getting to know each other.